The ocean is a place of wonder and terror. For centuries, it has swallowed ships, erased crews, and left behind only questions. Tonight, as you lie in the dark, we invite you to drift into the vast unknown. You'll hear tales of ghost ships that never docked again, disappearances without a trace, strange radio signals from empty seas, and eerie encounters that defy all logic. These aren't just stories, they are the whispers of the deep passed down by waves and wind waiting for someone to listen. So close your eyes, let the tide carry you, and prepare to fall asleep to the haunting mysteries of the sea. At the height of the steamship era, when nations raced to outshine each other with vessels of unmatched luxury power and prestige, one ship stood out, not because of tragedy at first, but because of what would come in eerie silence. Her name was SS Waratah. Nicknamed the Titanic of the South, even before the actual Titanic ever sailed, Waratah was built to reflect the peak of British engineering ambition. Grand salons, reinforced steel hulls, and the confidence to cross oceans in both style and safety. She was new, strong, and seemingly unstoppable, a floating palace bridging continents. But less than a year after her maiden voyage, that symbol of progress vanished without a word. No distress signal, no debris, no survivors, just nothing. In one moment, Waratah was a marvel of modern technology. In the next, she had evaporated from existence. This is not a tale of a storm or sabotage. It is the unsettling story of a ship that simply disappeared, and of a mystery the ocean has kept locked in its depths for over a century. On the morning of July 26, 1909, the SS Waratah departed from the port of Durban, one of the final stops on her long journey from Australia to England. On board were over 200 people, including crew members, passengers, and a substantial cargo load. The next destination was Cape Town, a regularly traveled maritime route along a well-known coastline frequented by ships daily. Nothing appeared unusual at the time of departure. The sea was relatively calm, the weather was favorable, and then Waratah sailed into open waters and never returned. There was no distress signal, no radio transmission, no sign of trouble. No one witnessed the ship going down, and no trace was found afterward. One of the most terrifying aspects of the Waratah's fate was the complete and utter silence that surrounded it. All communication seemed to vanish in an instant, as if an invisible door had closed in the middle of the sea, taking with it the entire ship and every soul aboard. Just a few hours after Waratah was last seen by the crew of the Clan McIntyre on the morning of July 27th, sailing steadily through calm waters, she had completely disappeared from the map. The crew of Clan McIntyre reported seeing Waratah moving, normally showing no signs of distress. Yet only hours later, despite several other vessels traveling the same path, no one saw Waratah again. She had vanished as if she had never existed. And what is perhaps most chilling is this: not a single piece of debris was ever found. No drifting timber, no life jackets, no lifeboats, no bodies, no oil slicks, nothing but the endless silence of the ocean. In the decades that followed, traditional and modern search efforts alike yielded the same result: emptiness. The sea took Waratah and never gave back so much as a splinter. In the history of maritime disasters, many tragic sinkings have occurred, but most leave behind some form of physical evidence. Even catastrophic mid-ocean explosions often result in floating debris, oil, or signs of struggle. But in the case of the Waratah, everything seemed to vanish in an instant. Maritime experts have since called this one of the cleanest disappearances ever recorded at sea. The bigger question remains: how could a nearly 10,000-ton vessel simply disappear in the middle of a heavily traveled sea route without a single witness or trace. In over 120 years, no one has been able to answer that question. The story of the Waratah extends far beyond a typical maritime tragedy. It represents the limitations of science and technology when confronted with the vast, enigmatic power of the ocean. And thus July 27, 1909 is forever marked as a dark and incomplete moment in time, the day an entire ship, along with hundreds of lives, memories, possessions, and dreams, vanished into the void between sky and sea, leaving behind nothing but an aching silence in the pages of human history. In the days and weeks that followed, search missions were launched by both government and private groups. Warships scoured the coastline. Aircraft flew search patterns over hundreds of miles. Explorers dove into underwater canyons. More than 15 missions took place over the course of years, using everything from sonar to diving bells. But the result was always the same silence. No hull, no cargo, not even a clue. The ocean refused to give up her secret. Soon after Waratah disappeared, a flood of theories emerged to explain the strange tragedy. Some maritime experts suggested the ship may have encountered a sudden local storm or rogue wave, rare oceanic phenomena known for their devastating power. However, weather reports at the time only indicated mild sea turbulence, and several other vessels on the same route arrived safely. One theory received particular attention. Waratah may have had a serious design flaw that made her unstable. Some passengers from the previous voyage had complained about unusual rolling with the ship, tilting more than normal when hitting waves. In fact, a few passengers chose not to reboard the ship in Durban due to an uneasy feeling that the ship felt like it wanted to capsize. This raised the alarming possibility that Waratah may have flipped over, suddenly triggered by just one unfortunate movement or a rapid shift in balance. Other arguments pointed to the cargo hold filled with heavy ores and loose materials, which might have shifted during the voyage, throwing off the ship's center of gravity. Some even mentioned the powerful and complex Agulhas current, or the possibility of an undersea volcanic eruption. But all of these remain nothing more than speculation. Because no matter how reasonable they sound, none of these theories can account for the ocean's total silence. No debris, no distress signals, no physical evidence. This is the wall every explanation crashes into. And even now, more than a century later, that curtain of mystery has yet to be lifted. Fan 5. Nhung hi vong moi. Vasu that vong laplai nu kachkuok team kim. Hien jai 1970s vo 2000s. Vatat bai kuachung. In 1977, sonar scans detected an underwater anomaly off the coast of South Africa. Hopes surged, but the shape turned out to be a natural rock formation. More modern efforts in the early 2000s, using advanced mapping tools and remotely operated vehicles, searched likely areas again. Nothing was found. For all our modern tools and technology, the Waratah remains hidden, lost in a sea that refuses to confess. Today, Waratah is remembered not just as a ship, but as a legend, a maritime ghost story that is entirely tragically real. Over 200 lives disappeared into the sea, and their story has no ending. The fate of the Waratah humbles us. It reminds us that even in an age of satellites and sonar, the ocean still holds mysteries it will not yield. And perhaps that is why, more than a century later, we are still searching not just for a ship, but for closure. What do you think really happened to the SS Waratah? Was it a tragic design flaw, a sudden rogue wave, or something far stranger? Something the ocean still refuses to reveal. Over a century later, the mystery remains untouched, and the possibilities are as haunting as they are endless. Some believe the Waratah lies perfectly preserved in the cold, silent depths, waiting to be discovered. Others think we may never find it, and that's exactly what gives this story its chilling power. Have you heard of other ships that vanished just as mysteriously? Or do you have your own theory? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. Disappearance of the USS Cyclops swallowed by the Bermuda Triangle. What if a 19,000-ton warship simply vanished in perfect weather, with no distress call, no debris, and no explanation, and no one ever found out why? That's exactly what happened in 1918 when the USS Cyclops, a massive US Navy cargo ship the length of 2 football fields, disappeared in the Atlantic Ocean with 306 souls aboard. No oil slick, no lifeboats, no wreckage, nothing. But what makes this story more chilling than any ordinary maritime disaster is where it happened, the heart of the Bermuda Triangle, a region infamous for swallowing ships and aircraft whole. More than a century later, no trace of the Cyclops has ever been found, and its disappearance remains one of the most haunting and unexplained events in naval history. Science offers theories, the ocean offers silence, and the Bermuda Triangle, it still waits vast, deep, and unsolved. A ship built for strength, not silence. Launched in 1910, the USS Cyclops was the crown jewel of the Navy's auxiliary fleet. She wasn't a warship, she was a collier, a cargo ship designed to transport tons of coal and ore across oceans to fuel America's rapidly expanding naval power. At 165 meters long and displacing over 19,000 tons when fully loaded, Cyclops was built to endure the high seas. Her hull was forged from steel. Her 4 huge holds could carry thousands of tons of cargo. She was crewed by experienced sailors and engineers, some of the best the Navy had. This was not a fragile or forgotten ship. And yet in March 1918, the Cyclops vanished without a whisper. The final voyage calmed seas, then silence. In late February 1918, the Cyclops departed Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, loaded with more than 10,000 tons of manganese, or a dense and heavy mineral used to harden steel. She made a scheduled stop in Barbados on March 3rd, took on more supplies, and set out for Baltimore, Maryland the next day. The seas were reportedly calm. The weather was uneventful. The crew sent no indication of trouble. But after leaving Barbados, the USS Cyclops was never seen again. What followed was one of the largest naval searches of the era. Ships were dispatched. Radio signals were monitored. Ports were checked along the eastern seaboard. But the Atlantic returned nothing. No debris, no lifeboats, no survivors. The Cyclops had simply disappeared, as though it had been erased from existence, into the Bermuda Triangle. Soon after the disappearance of the USS Cyclops, one detail emerged that would elevate this tragedy into legend. The ship's final known course passed directly through the infamous Bermuda Triangle, a vast, loosely defined zone of ocean bounded by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. On the surface, it seems like any other patch of the Atlantic, but for centuries, mariners have whispered about this region as if it were cursed. Strange phenomena have been reported time and again, compasses spinning erratically, navigation systems failing, dense fog appearing out of nowhere, and most haunting of all, ships and aircraft disappearing without a trace. This isn't modern superstition. Reports of anomalies in these waters date back to the age of sail, but the Cyclops case brought new weight to these tales. This wasn't a wooden galleon or a small fishing boat. It was a modern steel vessel operated by a military-trained crew in peacetime conditions under calm weather. There was no storm, no SOS, no sign of distress, and yet the ship simply vanished. Mainstream scientists have long argued that the Bermuda Triangle is just a myth, that statistically it's no more dangerous than any other heavily traveled region of ocean. And yet the Cyclops case continues to haunt maritime history precisely because it defies every conventional explanation. Was it a magnetic anomaly, a rogue wave, a methane eruption from the seafloor, or something beyond our understanding? The deeper you dive into this story, the more unsettling it becomes, because in the case of the Cyclops, the ocean didn't just take the ship, it erased all evidence that it had ever existed. What could explain such an event? Theories, some rational, some far from it. There have been dozens of theories ranging from the plausible to the paranormal. Mechanical failure. Some point to structural weaknesses in the ship's design. The weight of the manganese cargo could have shifted in a storm, destabilizing the ship, but there was no storm. And a ship of Cyclops' size wouldn't vanish without a trace from structural damage alone. Enemy attack. World War I was raging. Could a German U-boat have torpedoed the ship? Unlikely. No German records suggest any encounter. No explosion was witnessed. And again, no wreckage, sabotage, or mutiny. Captain George Worley, the ship's commander, was controversial. Born in Germany and naturalized in the US, he was rumored to be erratic and verbally abusive. Some even questioned his loyalty, but no solid evidence has ever emerged to support sabotage or internal rebellion. Magnetic anomalies. This is where the mystery becomes stranger. The Bermuda Triangle is infamous for causing compasses to spin, electronics to malfunction, and navigation systems to go haywire. Could the Cyclops have gone dramatically off course, stranded far from where anyone thought to search? Rogue waves and oceanic phenomena. Rogue waves, towering walls of water up to 100 feet high, can appear without warning and swallow ships whole. Could this have happened? Perhaps, but even then, something usually remains: floating cargo wreckage oil. Yet nothing from Cyclops was ever found. Methane hydrate eruptions. Scientists have theorized that undersea pockets of methane gas could erupt, reducing the water's density and causing ships to sink rapidly. This could explain the lack of debris, but such events are rare and usually leave evidence in seafloor sediments. The paranormal. Then come the ideas that make the Cyclops legend so enduring. A tear in time, a magnetic vortex, alien abduction, a dimensional rift. These theories may seem absurd, but when logic fails and no wreckage appears, the imagination fills the void. Not the only ship lost. Perhaps the most chilling detail is this: Cyclops wasn't alone. Two of her sister ships, the USS Proteus and USS Nereus, disappeared under nearly identical circumstances in the same general area during World War II. Both were also carrying heavy ore. Both vanished without a trace. Both contributed to the growing legend that something about this region simply devours ships. Was it a design flaw shared between the ships, or is the Bermuda Triangle the common denominator? More than a myth. Modern science and satellite tracking have debunked many myths about the Bermuda Triangle. It isn't officially recognized on nautical maps. Ships and planes pass through the area daily without issue. Statistically, it's not significantly more dangerous than other ocean regions. And yet, the Cyclops remains unsolved. In today's era of GPS radar and ocean floor mapping, we can find wrecks lost for centuries. We've found the Titanic. We've found sunken submarines from World War II. And yet the Cyclops, a ship the size of a modern skyscraper laid on its side, is still missing. Where did it go? Why did it never send a call for help? Why have search teams for over 100 years failed to find even a bolt or plate? Legacy of a vanishing today. The USS Cyclops is more than a missing ship. It is a symbol of what the ocean still hides from us. A haunting reminder that even in an age of science and technology, the deep sea holds secrets we may never fully understand. Whether it was a tragic accident, a victim of war, or something beyond our current understanding, the story of Cyclops taps into something deeper: the fear of the unknown, the awe of nature's power, and the enduring allure of mysteries that science cannot yet explain. And so the Bermuda Triangle endures not as a charted danger zone, but as a mythic frontier where logic ends and legend begins. The ocean does not give up its secrets easily, and in the case of the USS Cyclops, it gave us nothing at all. But what about you? What do you think really happened to the USS Cyclops? Was it a natural accident, a rogue wave, a structural failure, or some unexplained magnetic phenomenon? Or do you believe the ship crossed into something deeper, something that modern science still can't explain? Is the Bermuda Triangle merely a coincidence? Or is it truly a strange part of the sea where the line between reality and the impossible begins to blur? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because after more than a century, the first clue to solving one of the ocean's greatest mysteries might just begin with your question. It was hailed as the flower of the sea, but few could have guessed it would become the ocean's most elusive ghost. In 1502, a mighty Portuguese carrack set sail not just to trade, but to carry the dreams of an expanding empire. Her name was Flor de la Mar, and she was more than a ship. She was a floating fortress, a steel-clad symbol of Europe's ambition, cutting through the uncharted waters of the East. For nearly a decade, she defied tempests, braved battles, and crossed oceans, her decks heavy with gold and glory. But everything changed in 1511. After the violent conquest of Malacca, one of the wealthiest ports in all of Asia, Flor de la Mar was given a final mission, one unlike any before, to transport home a treasure so vast, so legendary, that it would echo through centuries. Her wooden hull was packed with gold, silver, pearls, ivory, and royal offerings from a fallen kingdom. She set sail with the weight of an empire's pride and vanished. She never made it home, and for more than 500 years, no one has ever found her again. Historical records and legends suggest that the cargo loaded onto Flor de la Mar may have constituted the largest treasure ever transported by sea. It was more than just loot. It was a declaration of Portugal's supreme dominance in global trade and imperial warfare during the Age of Exploration. Modern estimates place the value of this treasure at over $2 billion USD in today's currency. The contents were staggering bars of gold and unrefined silver chests of pearls and gemstones, ornate royal jewelry, sacred religious artifacts, crowns, intricately carved ivory, and luxurious goods seized from Arab, Indian, and Chinese merchants who had once flourished under the Sultanate of Malacca. All of this wealth was meticulously packed into the hull of Flor de la Mar, destined to cross oceans and arrive triumphantly at the royal treasury in Lisbon. But the ship would never complete its journey, nor would the treasure ever be seen again. It was supposed to be the triumphant return of a conqueror, the final leg of a journey that would etch Flor de la Mar into the chronicles of imperial glory. But instead, it became the beginning of one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in maritime history. In late 1511, as Flor de la Mar sailed through the Strait of Malacca, her belly heavy with treasure and ambition, nature struck with devastating force. A sudden storm, ferocious and unrelenting, descended upon the strait. Caught in a violent clash between wind and sea, the ship, already overburdened with gold, silver, and ivory, began to break apart. The wreck, according to scattered reports, occurred off the coast of Sumatra, in the unpredictable storm-lashed waters that even modern ships treat with caution. But what happened next was not just a tragedy, it was an enigma. Fleur de la Mar simply disappeared. No wreckage ever surfaced. No survivor could point to a precise location. Some who escaped claimed the ship shattered in shallow coral reefs. Others spoke of a whirlpool or an underwater fault line that dragged her into darkness. But no mast washed ashore, no barnacle-encrusted cannon, no rotting timber, no gilded chest. Nothing has ever been recovered. Historical documents reduce the event to 3 chilling words: lost at sea. Over the next 5 centuries, hundreds of expeditions would comb the region using the most advanced technologies of their times: sonar scans, underwater drones, submersible vessels, magnetometers, but not a single one has brought back conclusive evidence of the wreck. The challenges are immense. The seafloor here is a labyrinth of deep trenches, powerful currents, and shifting sediments that can bury a ship entirely within decades. Worse still, the region lies at the convergence of multiple national borders, making salvage operations fraught with political obstacles. But perhaps the most haunting possibility is this: that Fleur de la Mar is no longer whole, that it disintegrated under the weight of time, water, and pressure, scattered into untraceable fragments at the bottom of the sea. In this way, the ocean didn't just take the treasure, it erased the very existence of the ship that carried it. To this day, Fleur de la Mar remains both a historical fact and a phantom of the deep, a ship that was real, a treasure that was priceless, and a vanishing so absolute that it feels almost supernatural. The profound silence from the ocean floor hasn't stopped humanity from searching. On the contrary, it has only deepened our curiosity. Over the years, countless theories ranging from scientific to supernatural have been proposed to explain why Fleur de la Mar, the ship said to carry the greatest treasure in maritime history, has never been found. Some marine archaeologists believe the ship may have sunk into a seabed collapse or an underwater fault line where even modern sonar cannot reach. If this is true, the wreck could be buried under hundreds of meters of sediment, an environment where light, oxygen, and technology all fail. Another theory suggests that the treasure never went down with the ship. It's possible a group of survivors may have deliberately diverted or stolen a large portion of the gold and hidden it somewhere inland. The chaos following the storm would have provided the perfect cover for such a deception. Some historians have questioned whether the treasure was ever truly that vast. They argue that the $2 billion figure may be a product of later exaggeration, or even a propaganda tool of the Portuguese Empire to glorify the conquest of Malacca as a legendary imperial victory. And finally, there are the stories cloaked in mystery, the cursed treasure. Malay legends speak of sacred relics sealed with ancient magic, warning that anyone who dares to remove them from their holy lands would suffer a terrible fate. From that perspective, the storm that sank Fleur de la Mar was no accident. It was divine punishment. Whether driven by science or superstition, these theories only thicken the shroud of mystery surrounding the ghost ship that no one has ever seen. For over 5 centuries, Fleur de la Mar has haunted the dreams of treasure hunters, maritime historians, and explorers. From adventurous amateur divers to well-funded international salvage companies, countless expeditions have set out in search of the legendary shipwreck. Tens of millions of dollars have been poured into high-tech equipment, undersea mapping, and archival research, yet every effort has returned empty-handed. Not even a plank of wood or a rusted nail has been definitively linked to the lost carrack. The challenge is not just the ocean itself, but the geopolitical tensions surrounding it. The suspected wreck site lies within a region of politically sensitive waters, where maritime borders are disputed and salvage rights are fiercely protected. Any discovery could spark not only legal conflict, but also debates over cultural ownership, historical legacy, and national pride. For Malaysia, Indonesia, and even Portugal, Flor de la Mar is more than a shipwreck. It's a symbol of sovereignty and unresolved history. Despite never being found, the ship's legend lives on. In Malacca, Malaysia, a life-size replica of Flor de la Mar stands proudly in a maritime museum, visited by thousands each year. It serves as a monument not just to a lost vessel, but to a mystery that refuses to fade. A ship no one has ever seen, and yet no one can ever truly forget. What makes us so drawn to the things we haven't found? Perhaps it's because they remind us that no matter how advanced our technology becomes, the sea still keeps its secrets. And Flor de la Mar is one of those secrets, ancient, seductive, and full of challenge. Could it still be found someday? Could sonar reveal decayed timbers buried under the sand? Could a diver's flashlight one day catch the glint of forgotten gold? Maybe. But until then, it remains a story, with no ending, a whisper from the ocean that we still don't understand. More than 5 centuries have passed, yet Flor de la Mar remains lost. Its wreck never found, its treasure never recovered, and its story still unfinished. Could it be lying silently beneath layers of ocean sediment, forever beyond our reach? Or is it possible that someone somewhere already found it and chose never to tell? What do you think really happened to Flor de la Mar? Was it swallowed by nature or buried by human secrets? Let us know your theory in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you believe. Beneath the calm surface of the sea off southern Greece, where nothing seems out of place and only white sand and crystal clear waters remain, lies something that defies belief. It's not a shipwreck, not a broken temple or a crumbling statue. It's an entire ancient city, frozen in time beneath the waves for over 5,000 years. Streets, courtyards, multi-room houses, even a drainage system, everything you'd expect from a modern settlement, but from an age when civilization was supposedly still in its infancy. This city, known as Pavlopetri, challenges everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. Its layout is too precise, its structures too advanced, its preservation too perfect. According to conventional history, a city like this should not have existed, not in the Bronze Age, and certainly not beneath the sea. And yet there it is, silent, intact, and very, very real. More than just an archaeological curiosity, Pavlopetri poses a haunting question. What else lies beneath the surface of our understanding? And more importantly, how much of human history have we yet to uncover? The city was first discovered in 1967, but it wasn't until 2009, thanks to high-resolution sonar scans and underwater robotic mapping, that its full layout was finally revealed. What researchers uncovered beneath the layers of sand left them speechless: an extensive network of straight roads, multi-room buildings, inner courtyards, public squares, drainage systems, and burial sites. All of these elements were carved directly from solid rock and arranged with astonishing symmetry. There was no randomness, no chaos, just pure deliberate precision. The city followed a logical pre-planned layout, far more reminiscent of a modern urban neighborhood than anything we would expect from a prehistoric village. In every sense, this was true urbanism, thousands of years before urbanism was supposed to exist. What shocked archaeologists the most about Pavlopetri wasn't merely its age or how well it had survived the passage of time, it was the way the city was laid out. This wasn't some random cluster of homes thrown together around a water source. Pavlopetri was a deliberately and thoughtfully designed city, complete with streets, designated residential zones, open squares, and a drainage system carved with precision directly into ancient bedrock. Sonar scans revealed a network of straight streets, aligned both parallel and perpendicular to the prehistoric coastline. A layout that indicated a sophisticated understanding of zoning and spatial organization concepts that historians had long assumed only developed much later in classical Greece. Along these streets stood over 15 distinct buildings, many featuring 3 to 5 rooms, arranged in L or U-shaped configurations. Several had inner courtyards, built-in stone benches, and basic drainage channels cut into their floors, features that point to an advanced grasp of domestic design and daily living needs during the Bronze Age. Scattered throughout the city were wide communal spaces, likely used for markets or gatherings, and near these were larger structures believed to be storage facilities or perhaps civic centers, evidence of a higher level of community planning and centralized organization. Even more remarkable was the citywide drainage system itself. Carved directly into the stone, it functioned to direct rainwater away from homes and public areas. This was prehistoric civil engineering in action, not based on modern materials or machinery, but entirely on observation experience and ingenuity. There were no concrete foundations, no blueprints, no written manuals. Just human intelligence, spatial awareness, and skilled craftsmanship shaping a fully functional urban environment over 5,000 years ago. Pavlopetri wasn't just about survival, it represented a structured society, an ancient city, primitive in age, but astonishingly advanced in design. We often imagine the Bronze Age as a primitive time when early humans had just begun to settle, building simple mud and stick shelters, using crude tools, and living in scattered tribal communities. But the discovery of Pavlopetri completely shatters that perception. What truly astonished researchers was not merely that this city had a clear layout, but that it had been physically constructed from solid stone, with an extraordinary level of precision over 5,000 years ago, during a period when humans had no iron tools, no machines, and not even a standardized system of measurement. Archaeologists and engineers examining the site found that house foundations, stone benches, drainage channels, wall bases, and even entire streets were not assembled from loose rocks, but meticulously carved directly into the hard, brittle limestone bedrock. These features included level floors, sharp corners, and straight lines that appeared as though they were measured with modern tools, despite being made only with Bronze Age implements. This was no improvisation. It was skilled craftsmanship, guided by knowledge and intent. Even more remarkably, the builders accomplished this without blueprints, compasses, or a metric system. And yet they carved drainage channels at precise slopes, raised vertical walls, and positioned buildings for optimal sunlight and airflow. They likely relied on simple ropes, wooden measuring rods, marked sticks, or even the position of the sun to gauge angles. Whatever their methods, they worked and were passed down across generations, forming a body of unwritten yet deeply effective engineering knowledge. These people weren't merely surviving, they were thinking, calculating, and adapting. And that's where the mystery deepens. No written records have been found at Pavlopetri, no known language tied to its builders. Yet the city's construction is systematic, deliberate, and impressively consistent. This raises a provocative possibility. Was Pavlopetri just one of many cities, a product of a civilization that had already reached its peak before disappearing? Suddenly, could its builders have inherited techniques from an even older, forgotten culture, one that left behind no trace but mythic echoes in legends like Atlantis? While we may never know the full truth, Pavlopetri stands as indisputable evidence that prehistoric people were far from technologically naive. They didn't just survive, they built with purpose, with planning, and with a level of sophistication that continues to defy expectations. So what happened to Pavlopetri? Unlike many ancient cities that fell to warfire or human conflict, Pavlo-Petri shows no signs of violent destruction, no burning, no collapse, no evidence of invasion. Instead, the evidence points to a natural disaster, most likely a combination of earthquakes and gradual land subsidence which caused the entire area to sink below sea level. Over time, the sea quietly claimed the city, submerging it completely. But unlike mythical cities like Atlantis, Pavlo-Petri is very real, and paradoxically, its disappearance beneath the waves may be what preserved it so well. Shielded by layers of sand and silt, its buildings remained intact, its streets undisturbed, and its layout nearly frozen in time for over 3,000 years. Today, the structures still stand. The streets can still be followed if you're willing to dive beneath the surface. Its walls, its corners, its secrets, they're still there. And perhaps the most remarkable thing of all is this Pavlo-Petri's story is not over. In many ways, it's only just beginning. The biggest question Pavlo-Petri raises is not just how it was built or why it vanished, but what its existence implies about the rest of our planet's hidden past. If an entire city this advanced could sink beneath the sea and remain undiscovered for thousands of years, then how many other ancient settlements equally complex, equally forgotten, might still be lying beneath the ocean floor? Some researchers suggest that after the last ice age, dramatic rises in sea levels submerged vast stretches of coastline worldwide, possibly erasing hundreds of early human communities from the visible map of history. If Pavlo-Petri is just one example, then what we've uncovered so far may be only the surface of a much deeper global story. It forces us to ask whether we are missing entire chapters of human development periods when cities, trade, governance, and architecture may have flourished long before our accepted timelines. In truth, the greatest repository of ancient human history may not be buried in deserts or mountains, but silently resting beneath the waves, waiting to be found. Pavlo-Petri compels us to reconsider everything we think we know about the origins of civilization. It reveals that even without iron tools or written language, early humans were already designing cities, managing water systems, and constructing complex architecture thousands of years ago. This ancient underwater city proves that our ancestors were not primitive wanderers. They were intelligent, highly organized, and capable of feats we once believed were only possible in much later periods of history. Long before the rise of classical empires, they were already building cities deliberately, skillfully, and with a vision for communal life. So now the question is, was Pavlo-Petri a rare exception or just one of many ancient cities lost to time and tide? Could it represent a missing piece of our human story, a chapter that has yet to be rewritten? If you believe there are more forgotten cities waiting beneath the sea, or if you've heard of other places like Pavlo-Petri, share your thoughts in the comments. Because the past isn't gone. It's simply waiting to be uncovered, still sleeping beneath the waves. There is a stretch of ocean where all known rules seem to fall apart, a place where ships vanish without a trace, modern equipment fails without reason, and even professional research teams never return. This is the Devil's Sea, also known by its equally ominous name, the Dragon's Triangle, a mysterious region off the southern coast of Japan. On the surface, it appears calm and ordinary, but beneath its waters lie phenomena that science has yet to explain. Ancient legends speak of it as a gateway to an oceanic underworld, guarded by mythical creatures and shrouded in secrets long forgotten. For decades, the Devil's Sea has swallowed not only human lives, but also the very efforts of science to understand it. So what exactly is happening beneath those waters? Are these signs of extreme geological activity or something humanity has yet to recognize? Join us as we dive into the mystery of the Devil's Sea, where the ocean holds tight to its answers and leaves us only with questions. The Devil's Sea, also known as the Dragon's Triangle, is a vast stretch of ocean located south of Japan, extending from Miyake Island across the waters near Iwo Jima and reaching toward the northern coast of Taiwan. Unlike ordinary seas, the Devil's Sea is renowned for its mysterious stories and inexplicable phenomena. The name Dragon's Triangle originates from ancient Japanese legends, which tell of a giant sea dragon dwelling beneath the waves, one that would rise in fury and drag ships into the depths. In Japanese folklore, this is no ordinary body of water, but rather a boundary between the human world and another dimension. Geographically and mythologically, the Devil's Sea is often grouped with the most feared death triangles on Earth, alongside the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic and a lesser-known region near Antarctica. Strangely, all three areas share a disturbing pattern. Numerous unexplained disappearances, raising the haunting question, could there be a hidden force or unknown rule of nature that humanity has yet to uncover? Among all the mysteries surrounding the Devil's Sea, none is more shocking or terrifying than the disappearances without a trace, events that to this day remain without any truly convincing explanation. The most infamous case, and the one that has come to symbolize the strangeness of this region, is the disappearance of the Japanese research vessel Kaio Maru No. 5 in 1952. This ship was dispatched directly by the Japanese government, carrying 31 people, including researchers, engineers, and crew members, with the mission of studying geological activity, especially undersea volcanic eruptions within the Dragon's Triangle. Kaio Maru No. 5 was equipped with the most advanced technology available at the time. Yet just a few days after entering the area for research, the entire vessel and its 31 personnel vanished completely from all tracking and communication systems. No distress signal was ever sent. No debris washed ashore, and there was no evidence the ship had ever been there, as if it had been swallowed whole by the ocean itself. This was no ordinary accident. It was a complete erasure, one that shocked not only the scientific community, but also the Japanese public at large. In the wake of this devastating event, the Japanese government imposed a ban on all research activities in the area for an extended period. This only added to the fear and mystery of the Devil's Sea, as even a nation with Japan's strong organizational and scientific capabilities was forced to admit its helplessness in the face of such an enigma. To many, this was undeniable proof that the Devil's Sea was more than just a dangerous stretch of water. It was a blind spot of logic, a place modern science had yet to reach. The Kaio Maru No. 5 incident is only part of a much larger pattern. Numerous local fishing boats have also been reported missing in this region, sometimes small coastal vessels that disappeared under seemingly perfect weather conditions. In more bizarre cases, survivors returned after days adrift at sea, only to have completely lost all memory of what had happened. These sailors were often mildly disoriented or panicked, unable to recall where they had gone, what they had encountered, or even how they had survived. Some spoke of strange lights beneath the sea or dark waves that didn't appear on radar, details that many researchers could not ignore, even if there was no hard evidence to support them. Many theories have been proposed to explain the string of strange disappearances. Some scientists believe that sudden seafloor collapses caused by tectonic fractures may drag ships under with no trace. Others suggest the possibility of massive methane gas bubbles erupting from the seafloor, reducing water density and causing ships to sink instantly. However, these theories still fail to explain why no debris or final signals were ever found from the missing vessels. Moreover, no field investigation in the area has ever been able to conclusively test these scenarios due to the constant danger and the lingering fear that haunts the maritime community. For this reason, the Devil's Sea is no longer seen as just another spot on the map. It has become a symbol of mysterious disappearances that defy human understanding. It not only challenges our most sophisticated technologies, but also challenges our belief in the all-powerful reach of modern science. In the 21st century, when humans have walked on the moon and are preparing to explore Mars, this one stretch of ocean right here on Earth still lies beyond our grasp. And that is precisely what makes the disappearances in the Devil's Sea truly legendary. Beyond its terrifying record of strange disappearances, the Devil's Sea is also notorious for frequently exhibiting abnormal magnetic disturbances that cause modern instruments to malfunction. Many sailors and pilots who have passed through the area have reported that compasses spin uncontrollably, no longer pointing in the correct direction. GPS systems lose their signal or display incorrect coordinates, and radar occasionally fails to detect any surrounding objects, even when weather conditions are completely normal. These technical malfunctions are not isolated incidents, but recurring phenomena documented over decades. Some scientists believe that beneath the Devil's Sea may lie highly magnetic mineral deposits or unique geological structures that generate unusually strong electromagnetic fields which interfere with electronic equipment. Under such conditions, ships can easily veer off course, lose control, or descend into chaos, often leading to accidents with no time to react. Whether these disturbances stem from natural causes or not, they remain one of the many pieces in the puzzle that make this region of the ocean all the more mysterious and dangerous in the eyes of the global maritime community. The Devil's Sea lies along the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region known for intense geological activity, including frequent earthquakes and underwater volcanic eruptions. Some theories suggest that submarine eruptions may generate powerful undersea currents or trigger sudden seafloor collapses, pulling vessels down without a trace. However, the strange absence of distress signals, oil slicks, or debris makes this explanation far from fully convincing. In Japanese folklore, the Devil's Sea is known as Ma no Umi, the Sea of the Devil, where giant sea dragons are said to dwell beneath the depths, dragging ships under, with no one ever returning. Like the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea is one of the few places on Earth where disappearances remain completely unexplained. Despite countless theories ranging from extreme geological events to supernatural forces, none have proven truly convincing. This region has become a symbol of the limits of modern science, a place where the ocean itself seems determined to keep its deepest truths hidden. Ships that set out and never returned. No signal, no debris, no explanation. So what truly lurks beneath those calm waters? Could it be a natural phenomenon yet to be discovered by humankind? Or is there something far beyond the reach of modern science? The Devil's Sea continues to exist in silence, defying every attempt at understanding. And what do you think really happened in this strange and mysterious part of the ocean? They weren't listed on any naval roster. They flew no flag. They made no sound. Yet somehow they moved through the oceans with haunting precision, detected on sonar stalking convoys, and then vanishing without a trace. During the chaos of World War II, when the world's navies fought a brutal war above and below the waves, reports began to surface of something else, in the deep something that didn't fit into any known category of enemy craft. Naval commanders from the Atlantic to the Arctic logged similar unsettling encounters, unidentified submarines appearing where no known vessel should be. These strange underwater craft responded to no challenge, carried no identifying marks, and in many cases could not be sunk, no matter how many depth charges were dropped. Some believed they were top-secret enemy weapons. Others suspected a global disinformation campaign. But as sightings mounted and the reports grew eerily consistent, a darker theory emerged. What if these were not weapons at all, but relics of something older, something forgotten, or something beyond our understanding? Because the most disturbing part is this: some of these phantom submarines came back after they were declared destroyed. One of the most disturbing aspects of the phantom submarine phenomenon is not just their unexplained presence, but where they were reported. These weren't merely enemy vessels hiding in deep ocean trenches or patrolling strategic shipping lanes. Many of these submarines were seen or detected in places that no known submarine of the 1940s could have possibly reached, let alone operated in. Take, for example, the repeated sonar contacts off the coast of Gävle, Sweden, a region surrounded by shallow waters, dense archipelagos, and narrow fjords. Swedish naval patrols in 1942 and again in 1944 reported consistent underwater movements resembling a submarine, complete with propeller acoustic speed signatures and evasive maneuvers. But no submarine was ever found, and the Baltic Sea at that time was considered nearly impossible for enemy U-boats to penetrate without being noticed. Then there were reports of submarine-like objects moving under the Arctic ice shelf far north of where any diesel-electric submarine could survive. These crafts would appear beneath polar research stations, sometimes lingering for hours on sonar before slipping back into the frozen deep. No known vessel had the battery range or insulation to operate in those freezing ice-crushed corridors, and yet something was moving down there. Even more puzzling were sightings in inland bodies of water places completely landlocked. In Lake Mälaren in central Sweden and even Loch Ness in Scotland, local sonar operators and fishermen described what they believed were large torpedo-shaped objects moving underwater. Some reports claimed these objects left behind turbulent wakes as if rapidly submerging. These were not deep oceans. These were relatively shallow, monitored environments. And again, no wrecks, no hulls, no proof. The idea of submarines operating in such areas stretches military plausibility to the breaking point. Even modern submarines would struggle to function in some of these zones due to draft limitations, depth restrictions, or environmental hazards. So the question naturally follows, if these weren't manned submarines, then what were they? Were they early undocumented autonomous vessels? Cold War-era prototypes lost in time? Or something far stranger, an intelligence that mimicked submarine behavior but had no human origin? Whatever they were, their appearance in impossible places suggests one of two things. Either history has kept secrets deeper than any ocean trench, or we have never truly understood what shares these waters with us. None of the world powers admitted responsibility for these submarines. When post-war declassified documents became available, historians expected to find some clues, but they found nothing. No U-boats, no Japanese or Allied submarines had been recorded as operating in the locations where these sightings occurred. In some cases, the objects detected didn't even match the design of any known submarine model. Of all the phantom submarine stories to emerge from World War II, none are more chilling or more difficult to rationalize than the cases where submarines returned after being declared sunk. These weren't vague rumors or sailor myths. They were documented incidents backed by combat logs, sonar records, and even eyewitnesses who had watched the vessel's final moments beneath the waves. And yet, they came back. One of the most famous examples is Germany's U-65, a Type 9 U-boat. According to Allied naval records, U-65 was destroyed in early 1943 during a skirmish in the North Atlantic. Depth charges were deployed, a massive underwater explosion was recorded, oil and debris surfaced, classic signs of a kill. The crew of the attacking destroyer was commended. The U-65 was scratched off the threat list, but only months later, a destroyer patrolling an entirely different sector picked up a sonar contact. The shape, size, and acoustic profile matched U-65 perfectly. Its maneuvering pattern, the way it turned, its depth shifts, even its silent running tactics were all textbook U-65 behavior. At first, the crew assumed it must be another Type 9, but post-war records show that no other U-boat was assigned to that sector at the time. Was it a sister ship, a double? Or had something far more disturbing happened? And this wasn't an isolated event. In the Baltic Sea, Swedish naval operators detected what they believed was a returning German U-boat, long thought lost. The submarine showed up on sonar, mirrored the exact behavioral profile of a vessel destroyed months earlier, and then vanished just as quickly. Other similar reports came from Arctic patrols and even the Indian Ocean, always the same, a submarine that shouldn't exist, acting exactly like one that was already gone. Several theories attempted to explain this phenomenon. One was that Germany had secretly manufactured twin submarines, designed to be exact duplicates in case one was lost. But this would have required extensive documentation, logistics, and crew training, none of which has surfaced in post-war archives. Another theory suggests that the original sinking reports were falsified either to boost morale or hide intelligence failures. While plausible in wartime chaos, it doesn't explain how the sonar echoes matched so precisely. Then there's the most unsettling theory of all: something brought them back. Whether it's a yet unknown natural phenomenon, secret recovery and reactivation programs, or forces beyond current understanding, the fact remains some submarines didn't stay sunk. One naval historian called these cases the Flying Dutchman, of the deep ironclad ghosts that defied destruction and resurfaced to haunt the very waters they were once claimed by. If true, these stories suggest that even the ocean doesn't always keep what it swallows, and that perhaps not everything that dies beneath the waves is truly gone. Part 5. From wartime shadows to modern myths. The mystery of the phantom submarines quickly expanded beyond military speculation. Conspiracy theorists suggested they were experimental weapons. Others went further, proposing alien technology or even time travel. What's strange is how reports from nations as different as the US, the UK, Russia, and Sweden described eerily similar encounters, as if a collective phantom had been gliding silently through the world's oceans beyond any human control. The sonar logs, battle reports, and eyewitness accounts are still there, and yet no official explanation has ever been offered. No government or navy has stepped forward to fully confirm or deny the existence of these submarines. So we're left with an unnerving question. Are there vessels operating beneath our oceans that defy every known rule of war physics and technology? What do you think about submarines that supposedly returned after being destroyed? Were they radar errors, disinformation, or something else entirely? Could war leave behind not only scars on land, but ghosts beneath the sea? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever heard of other ocean mysteries like this, let us know. We'll keep diving deeper, because the sea still holds many secrets we've yet to understand. April 2007. Off the coast of Queensland, Australia, a chilling sight emerged from the calm blue waters. A modern sailing catamaran named Kaz the Cygne was found silently drifting, aimless and unmanned. But what sent shivers down the spine of those who boarded it wasn't a wreck, a fire, or a storm. It was that everything on board was almost perfectly intact. The engine was still running. A laptop was still on. An unfinished meal sat on the table, a glass of water beside it, untouched. Fishing lines trailed into the still sea. Everything seemed frozen in time, as if a normal moment had been abruptly severed. But the men who had been aboard had vanished without a trace. No distress call had ever been made. No last words. No signs of struggle, chaos, or injury. Only an absolute absence. Kaz 2 was more than just an empty vessel. It was a cold message from the sea, a reminder that some mysteries still drift quietly beyond the edge of human understanding. And this is one of them. Aboard the Kaz 2 that day were three men as close as brothers: Derek Batten, 56 years old, the boat's owner, a retired businessman who had spent much of his life connected to the sea. Alongside him were his two longtime friends, Peter Tunstead, 69, and James Tunstead, 63, actual brothers who had been sailing since their youth. Though not professional sailors, all three were experienced, knowledgeable about navigation, and had prepared thoroughly for the journey. They planned to sail up Australia's eastern coastline over several leisurely weeks, taking their time and enjoying the ocean. On April 15, 2007, the Kaz 2 departed from Airlie Beach under ideal weather conditions. Everything proceeded as planned. No storms were forecasted and no alerts were issued by the Weather Center. But just 3 days later, on April 18th, their boat was found adrift at sea with nearly everything intact except for one critical detail: no one was on board. What made the incident even more chilling was the final video recorded on the Kaz 2 just hours before the disappearance. In the footage, all three men appeared completely normal and cheerful. One sat reading a newspaper in the sun, another was steering the vessel, and the third was casually walking about the deck. There were no signs of panic, no tension, no indication that anything was wrong. The sea was calm. The wind was light. It was a peaceful afternoon on the ocean, and then complete silence. After that moment, no one ever heard from them again. No distress signals were sent, no calls, no radio messages. It was as if all communication had been severed in an instant. The fact that three grown, experienced men vanished simultaneously without leaving a single clue, no drifting clothes, no personal items, no bodies, is almost impossible to comprehend. Some have speculated that one man may have fallen overboard while fishing and the other two jumped in to save him. But if that were true, why did no one throw a life ring, try to circle back, or stop the boat's engine? Why was the motor still running while no one remained on board? Their story stunned not only their families, but all of Australia. A carefully planned trip, seasoned men, perfect weather conditions, and it all ended with absolute absence, without reason, without goodbye. To this day, no one can answer the most haunting question: where did they go and what happened on the Kaz 2? In those final moments, the ocean remains silent, and the three men, it's as if they never existed at all. As soon as the Kaz 2 disappearance was made public, a flood of theories began circulating. Some seemed plausible, while others veered into bizarre territory. But the strangest thing of all was that none of them were truly convincing, as each ran into contradictions that defied explanation. The most commonly accepted theory involves a fishing accident. Perhaps one of the three men slipped and fell overboard while tending to a fishing line. The other two, either out of panic or instinct, may have immediately jumped in to save him. In the ensuing struggle, all three were swept away, while the boat, left unmanned, continued drifting under power. On the surface, it's a tragic but seemingly feasible scenario. However, too many details don't add up. Why didn't anyone throw a life ring, a basic reflex for experienced sailors? Why was the engine still running, yet no one made an attempt to return to the helm? How could all three men vanish at once, with none able to hold onto or swim back to a vessel only meters away? And why was not a single body ever found along the shoreline? Moreover, the boat's safety equipment remained untouched. There was no blood, no signs of struggle, nothing appeared out of place. The theory of internal conflict escalating to violence was also dismissed, as there was no indication of argument or physical confrontation on board. Some began to suggest explanations that go beyond logic. Could CAS-2 have passed through a magnetic anomaly? Was there a yet unknown natural phenomenon that consumed all three men? Or was this a modern case of the Bermuda Triangle, a region where people disappear under circumstances science can't explain? Even the idea of modern-day piracy or external intrusion was quickly ruled out. There were no signs of forced entry theft or missing valuables. Satellite phone, laptop, cash, everything remained untouched on the vessel. There was no reason to believe the men had been attacked. In the end, each theory offers a piece of logic, yet collides with critical gaps, mysteries that only the vanished men could solve. But they never came back. Investigators conducted a thorough examination of CAS-2, its navigational systems, electronic logs, GPS data, and travel records. But they found nothing credible to explain what had occurred. The boat was undamaged, the weather had been mild, there were no storms, and the spot where the vessel was discovered was less than 200 kilometers from shore, well within the range of 3 seasoned sailors. In the end, the case was officially closed without conclusion, leaving the public even more bewildered. The silence from the sea, from the ship itself, and from the empty data logs became a deafening mystery, as if the ocean had swallowed them whole, leaving only a drifting ghost behind. CAS-2 has become a symbol of the unexplainable maritime mysteries of the 21st century. A modern yacht, 3 once living men, and a sequence of events so bizarre that it defies logic and offers no escape. In an age when technology can record every moment and track every movement at sea, the fact that 3 adult men could disappear without a trace stunned both scientists and seafarers alike. Years have passed, and people continue searching for answers, but all they find are more questions. CAS-2 is not just a boat. It is a floating question mark, a haunting memory of a mystery that was never fully told. CAS-2 reminds us that despite our maps, satellites, radar, and advanced technology, there are still dark zones in the ocean, places where people vanish without leaving a trace. And with mysteries like this, the true fear doesn't lie in storms or waves. It lies in complete, unanswerable silence. That's what gives the CAS-2 case its chilling power, a drifting, sorrowful ballad sung by the sea, leaving every sailor to wonder, if I go, will I return? In 1945, American pilot James Gaussman, flying from India to China, reported a shocking sight, a massive pyramid-like structure standing alone in the fields near Xi'an, Shanxi province. He claimed to have taken photographs and notes, but for decades, this account was nearly forgotten, dismissed as a misunderstanding or a pilot's illusion. Gaussman wasn't the only one. Another U.S. Air Force pilot, Maurice Sheehan, also reported seeing a pyramid with a flat, truncated top while flying over the mountains of China. His sighting was published in the New York Times on March 28, 1947, sparking fascination among Western scholars. But not long after, the Chinese government officially denied the existence of any such pyramids in the country. Part 2. When satellites told the truth. It wasn't until the 1990s that satellite images from Google Earth and independent archaeological investigations revealed something undeniable. The pyramids in China not only exist, they are numerous. Around the ancient city of Xi'an, a lone capital of over 13 dynasties, more than 30 pyramid-like structures have been identified. Many are so heavily overgrown with vegetation that they appear to be ordinary hills from the ground. Among them is Maoling, the tomb of Emperor Wu of the Han dynasty. It stands about 46 meters tall with a base area of over 50,000 square meters, making it even larger in volume than Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza. One of the most striking differences between China's pyramids and their Egyptian counterparts lies in both construction materials and intentional concealment. Chinese burial mounds were often made from rammed earth and stone, then deliberately covered with soil and vegetation to resemble natural hills. This not only deterred tomb robbers, but also made them difficult to identify for modern archaeologists. Today, the Chinese government maintains strict policies prohibiting excavation of many of these sites. This includes the famed tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Although the terracotta army that guards the tomb has become world-renowned, the central burial chamber remains untouched due to concerns that modern technology may not be capable of preserving its contents once exposed. Part 4. Astronomical Alignments and Ancient Order Research by archaeologist Hartwig Hausdorff, who visited the area in the 1990s, found that many of these pyramids align with celestial phenomena, such as sunrise during the winter solstice or spring equinox. These alignments are reminiscent of Egyptian and Mesoamerican pyramids, which also show astronomical precision. Some researchers have even suggested that the Chinese pyramids may collectively form an ancient astronomical map, similar to how the pyramids at Giza are thought to reflect Orion's belt. Across the ochre-covered Loess Plateau north of Xi'an, the ancient capital of more than 10 Chinese dynasties, lies a forgotten landscape. Not of ruins or scattered stones, but of entire pyramids, dozens of them, rising quietly like soft hills cloaked in centuries of earth time and silence. At first glance, they could easily be mistaken for natural mounds. Trees now cover their flanks. Grass grows undisturbed across their slopes. But from above, through satellite imagery, their symmetry betrays the truth. These are not hills. They are man-made structures, buried pyramids, and they are far more numerous than most realize. Independent researchers and amateur archaeologists have catalogued more than 40 to 100 such pyramids across the region surrounding Xi'an. Most remain unexcavated. Among the largest is Maoling, the tomb of Emperor Wu of the Han dynasty, nearly 50 meters tall, with a base area equivalent to a stadium. Further west lies Changling, the resting place of Emperor Gaozu, founder of the Han. Built with tiered platforms and aligned to the cardinal directions, its design reflects ancient Chinese geomancy feng shui in practice. But the real mystery may not be their size or number. It's their arrangement. German researcher Hartwig Hausdorff, after visiting the area in the 1990s, proposed that many of these pyramids are not randomly placed. Instead, they appear to align with solar positions such as sunrise and sunset during solstices, or form geometric layouts resembling ancient star maps. While controversial, his observations point to a deeper intention behind their construction. Were these tombs also observatories, cosmic calendars, or part of a long-lost spiritual system? Whatever the answer, it is clear these pyramids were never meant to stand alone. They form a silent city of the dead, stretching across the landscape, and modern science has only begun to scratch the surface. Despite being visible, mapped, and sometimes even studied from the outside, the vast majority of China's pyramids remain sealed shut. We know they are tombs, We know who lies inside emperors, empresses, nobles. But what lies with them remains a mystery. And the reason is simple: they have never been opened. The official explanation from Chinese authorities is caution. According to policy, no excavation is to be attempted unless there is a guarantee that everything inside can be preserved. And as it stands, modern archaeological technology is not advanced enough to meet that guarantee. The most iconic example is the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Though it was discovered in the 1970s, famous for the terracotta army standing guard outside the central burial chamber has never been entered. Ancient texts, like Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, describe a surreal underground world inside the tomb, rivers of flowing mercury stars embedded in the ceiling, miniature palaces filled with treasure. That might sound like legend until science weighed in. In 2005, researchers from the China University of Geosciences detected extraordinarily high levels of mercury in the soil above the tomb, consistent with the ancient description. This finding suggested that parts of the old records might not be myth at all, but detailed accounts of a real, sophisticated burial complex sealed away for over 2,000 years. Still, the tomb remains untouched, out of reverence, fear, or something else entirely. Many scholars argue that leaving these structures buried may cause more harm than good. Each year, plant roots, water infiltration, and geological shifts eat away at the unprotected interiors. The longer we wait, the more is lost, not to time, but to inaction. More intriguingly, some researchers suggest that these pyramids may contain artifacts, writings, or technologies that could reshape our understanding of ancient China or even the ancient world as a whole. Some fringe theorists, like author Graham Hancock, go further, proposing that these pyramids are remnants of a lost civilization predating dynastic China itself. While mainstream science has not embraced such claims, one thing is certain: no one can disprove them because no one has looked inside. And that perhaps is the greatest mystery of all. Not what lies beneath, but why we still haven't dared to uncover it. The buried pyramids of China are not legends or mere speculation. They are real, and they may hold the key to an untold chapter of human history. But as long as the earth remains undisturbed, and as long as excavation bans remain in place, these pyramids will continue to stand as one of the world's most enduring mysteries, ancient, silent, and still unsolved by modern science. In the summer of 1992, a farmer in Longyu County, Zhejiang Province, China, decided to pump water out of a pond that locals had always believed to be a natural body of water. Curious as to why the pond was so unusually deep and seemingly without any inlet or outlet, he embarked on a task that would ultimately reshape the landscape of archaeological mystery in China. What emerged as the water drained was not a muddy lake bed, but something far more extraordinary: the entrance to an enormous man-made cave with high ceilings and flat vertical walls that appeared to have been carved with machine-like precision, something considered impossible with ancient technology. Over the following months, a total of 24 caves were uncovered. Each one was human-made, carved directly into solid rock. And yet what stunned historians and archaeologists even more was that not a single reference to these structures exists in thousands of years of meticulously recorded Chinese history, to a scale and precision that defies explanation. According to a 2002 survey by a team of Chinese researchers from the China University of Geosciences, all of the Longyu caves were meticulously chiseled out of dense sandstone, covering a combined area of roughly 30,000 square meters. Some of the chambers rise as high as 30 meters, extending nearly 20 meters underground. Inside, one finds rectangular stone pillars, smooth walls, and vaulted ceilings, features rarely seen in ancient subterranean construction. What is most bizarre are the consistent patterns etched into every surface of the caves. Parallel striations, reminiscent of wave patterns or fingerprints, run uniformly along the walls, floors, and ceilings. The grooves are so evenly spaced and precisely executed that they appear machine-cut. No one knows why they were made, or more intriguingly, how. Even more perplexing is the absence of debris. No piles of stone chips, no discarded tools, and no traces of metal instruments were found anywhere in or near the caves. It's as if the millions of cubic feet of excavated rock simply vanished, with an estimated 1 million cubic meters of stone removed. Accomplishing this manually would have required decades of labor by thousands of workers, and yet the historical record is entirely silent. It's hard to believe, but the Longyu Caves appear to have never existed in the recorded memory of humanity. In a country known for its meticulous historical documentation like China, where from the Shang dynasty more than 3,000 years ago, every major construction project has left at least some trace in historical records, the fact that a massive underground cave complex like Longyu is completely absent from ancient texts is staggering. Scholars have combed through extensive archives, from Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian to comprehensive compilations like the Siku Quanshu, and yet not a single line mentions any large-scale excavation or underground construction in this region. But the silence of history is only the beginning of Longyu's anomalies. When archaeologists began excavating and studying the interiors of the caves, they found no signs of human habitation or activity. No ash, no pottery shards, no stone tools or metal implements, no carvings or religious symbols, nothing. The caves are completely empty, silent, and cold, as if they were never meant for any practical, spiritual, or ceremonial purpose. They seem to have been created simply to exist. Various theories have been proposed, ranging from lost civilizations to secret shelters or ancient temples. But if they were dwellings, why are there no signs of life? If they were sacred sites, why is there not a single trace of iconography or ritual structure? If they were quarries, why were they so meticulously carved with deliberate patterns and artistic symmetry? Archaeology magazine once listed Longyu among the 10 greatest archaeological mysteries that defy explanation, alongside other enigmatic sites like the Nazca Lines and the Yonaguni Monument. Professor Yang Hongshun from the Chinese Institute of Ancient Architecture remarked, "If this structure had been built by any known dynasty, there would be documentation. The fact that it's completely absent from the historical record is exactly what makes it so haunting." One of the most astonishing and mysterious aspects of the Longyu Caves is the fact that for centuries, perhaps millennia, the entire cave system lay submerged underwater. Locals, generation after generation, believed the large pools scattered across the region were just natural ponds. No one suspected that beneath the still waters lay a vast man-made structure forgotten by time. When the water was finally pumped out and the cave ceilings revealed, the first thing that stunned experts was the structural integrity of the chambers. Towering stone vaults remained intact. There were no collapses, no signs of serious erosion or water damage, even though the caves were carved into sandstone, a material not known for its durability in prolonged wet conditions. Under normal circumstances, such a structure would have eroded or caved in after a few centuries of flooding. And yet Longyu still stands, with every pattern etched into its walls, crisp and deliberate. This raised profound questions about the engineering knowledge and construction techniques of those who created it. How did they calculate the load-bearing capacity of each chamber with such precision that they didn't need any central support columns. How did they know that this particular type of stone would withstand the pressure of water for thousands of years? And if they didn't know, then why hasn't it collapsed? Some modern geologists, like engineer Chen Xiaowei from the Beijing University of Civil Engineering, have commented, even with today's advanced software and simulation tools, designing an underground space like this is a significant challenge. Yet somehow, they achieved this in antiquity with no surviving plans or technical documentation. There are even theories suggesting that Longyu may not have been submerged when it was first constructed, and that its flooding was the result of geological shifts, perhaps an earthquake that altered the groundwater table or caused a sudden drop in the bedrock. But even if that were true, the question remains, why is there no drainage system? And if the flooding was abrupt, why didn't the caves show any structural failure? In 2012, researchers from the University of Tokyo conducted mineral analysis on algae and sediment samples from the cave ceilings, estimating that the last time sunlight touched those surfaces was over 1,000 years ago. For all those centuries, the caves remained submerged, completely hidden from sight. No one entered. No one recorded them. They waited in the silence of deep water, intact, undisturbed, and entirely forgotten. Numerous hypotheses have been put forward to explain Longyu, but none have fully convinced the academic community. Some suggest the caves were once ancient quarries, but this seems unlikely. Quarries are usually open-cut and practical, not closed chambers with intricate carvings and aesthetic symmetry. Others propose they were military storage depots, perhaps during the Warring States period or the Han Dynasty, yet there is no supporting evidence and no artifacts of war have been found. A more speculative idea is that they were religious or ceremonial structures, but there are no signs of altar shrines or religious symbolism from Buddhism, Taoism, or Confucianism. Finally, some propose that the caves were built by a lost civilization, one that predates known Chinese dynasties, but again, no archaeological evidence supports this claim. Even China Heritage Quarterly remarked, if Longyu had been built by any known dynasty, there would be some documentation. The silence of the record is what makes it so haunting. To this day, the Longyu caves remain a profound enigma, a challenge to engineering, to history, and to archaeology itself. Teams from Japan, Germany, Russia, and the United States have all visited and studied the site, but no one has provided a definitive explanation. It all started with a drained pond, but what it revealed was a doorway into an ancient mystery far beyond the boundaries of current understanding. Longyu is not just a construction, it is a reminder, a silent testament to how much we still don't know, how much lies buried, how much has yet to be discovered about the deep hidden chapters of our collective past. In 1938, deep in the remote Bayan-Kara-Ula mountain range near the border of Tibet and China, an archaeological team, led by Dr. Chipu Te, stumbled upon an ancient network of caves. But what they found inside puzzled not only the team, but eventually the world. Scattered throughout the cave system were hundreds of strange stone discs, each measuring around 30 centimeters in diameter, featuring a perfectly round hole in the center, resembling a wheel. Most striking of all were the spiral grooves carved into the surface, filled with tiny characters so minuscule they could only be seen through a magnifying glass. In total, 716 stone discs were recorded in documents attributed to the expedition. These mysterious objects later came to be known as the Dropa stones, and from that point on, one of the most controversial tales in archaeological history began. The discs found in the caves of the Bayan-Kara-Ula Mountains baffled archaeologists not only because of their strange shape, but because of what was carved onto them, spiral grooves filled with characters so tiny they could only be seen through a magnifying glass. No one could identify the language. It didn't resemble ancient Chinese, nor did it match any known writing system in recorded history. This unfamiliarity raised a flood of questions. Who carved these symbols, and what were they trying to say? Decades later, in 1962, a scholar named Sum Umnui emerged in Western reports with a shocking claim he had deciphered the inscriptions on the Dropa stones. According to him, they were not religious texts or historical records, as one might expect, but a cry for help from beings not of this earth. In his translation, Sum Umnui stated that the inscriptions told the story of a spaceship crash that had occurred some 12,000 years ago, carrying a race known as the Dropa. After crash landing in the mountains of Tibet, these beings, small-bodied, large-headed, pale-skinned, tried to coexist with the local tribes. But their appearance and language were too alien, and they were mistaken for enemies and hunted down. One passage, reportedly translated from the discs, read, "The Dropa came down from the clouds. Their craft crashed. They asked to stay and live with us, but we did not understand their language and thought they were invaders." The tragic tale quickly spread through circles of pseudo-historical and UFO researchers. But as it did, the name Sum Umnui became yet another mystery. No official academic or archaeological record in China acknowledged his existence. Some sources claimed he was a Japanese scholar based in Beijing. Others believed the name was a pseudonym for a researcher forced into exile for revealing sensitive information. No one knows for certain who he was, but his name and his translation continue to echo through time. Shortly after Sum Umnui's supposed translations began circulating in Western publications, several European researchers claimed to have seen the Dropa stones firsthand. Among them was German investigator Hartwig Hausdorff, who traveled to China in the late 1990s and documented his experiences in the book The Chinese Roswell. He recounted that two of the discs were once briefly displayed in a small museum in Xi'an, only to be taken down quickly after attracting too much attention from foreign media. Hausdorff said he gained access to certain unpublished reports, and even cited one unofficial study suggesting the discs emitted a faint ultrasonic frequency, a strange phenomenon if the stones were merely ordinary rock. According to him, museum staff declined to comment when asked about the stones' fate. No one could say where they had gone. No official photographs were ever published. Even the archival records related to the artifacts gradually disappeared. This ambiguity only added fuel to the intrigue. If the entire story was fabricated, why had no major institution issued a decisive debunking? And if the stones were real, why the effort to suppress them? In an age where nearly everything can be verified through images, video, or preserved samples, the Dropa stones had seemingly vanished without a trace. And yet the stories from east to west, from books to whispers, persisted like a forgotten thread in the tapestry of history. Faced with these bizarre claims, the mainstream scientific community has consistently dismissed the Dropa stones as a hoax. They call it pseudo-archaeology, a speculative fiction disguised as science, fueled by conspiracy theorists and amateur adventurers. Experts have pointed out that there is no official archaeological record of a 1938 expedition by Dr. Chi Pu-te in the Bayan Karaula region. There is no verified manuscript of Sum Umnui's translation, and most importantly, no physical artifact currently exists that could be subjected to modern testing. However, even within this firm rejection lie unresolved gaps. First, no one has ever clearly identified the origin of the story, who first constructed such a detailed and consistent narrative. Second, the repeated claim that over 700 stone discs were discovered is strangely specific for a mere hoax. And third, the prolonged silence from Chinese authorities, who are known to tightly control archaeological discourse, has only deepened the mystery. If the story is false, why not issue an official statement debunking it once and for all? The tale of the Dropa stones persists like a fogged mirror. No one sees it clearly, but everyone senses that something is being reflected. Science has found no proof, but it has also failed to produce a convincing explanation. And in that silence, human imagination continues to spin the legend of outcast beings from distant stars, of ancient messages etched in stone, and of the possibility that perhaps we were never truly alone. Today, the Dropa stones continue to appear in pseudo-archaeological books, UFO documentaries, and YouTube videos dedicated to ancient mysteries. Despite the lack of physical evidence, the stones have become a powerful symbol of an unresolved theory. Could ancient humans have once encountered beings from another world? Some have compared the Dropa stones to China's version of the Antikythera mechanism, a device so technologically advanced it defied its era. But unlike the Antikythera mechanism, which is preserved and displayed in museums, the Dropa stones exist only through retellings and controversy. The Dropa stones live at the intersection of unproven science and unrelenting human curiosity. Perhaps they are entirely fictional. Yet the idea of stone discs, carved with alien messages, continues to fascinate, tapping into our desire to understand where we come from and whether we are truly alone in the universe. In a world where most mysteries eventually find resolution, the Dropa stones remind us that some stories still resist explanation, and perhaps that's exactly what makes them unforgettable. Tucked away in the quiet mountain ranges of Hubei Province, China, Mufu Mountain is not a name that rings out in archaeology or history books. Yet according to a mysterious tale that began circulating on the internet in the early 2000s, this unassuming peak may be the site of one of the strangest and most unsettling discoveries ever reported: a giant human skeleton said to have been uncovered deep within a forested cave. Posts on forums like above top secret unexplained mysteries.com and videos on conspiracy-themed YouTube channels describe a group of miners or researchers stumbling upon the remains during a routine excavation. But what shocked them wasn't just the skeleton. It was its impossible proportions, a skull estimated to be 4 or 5 times the size of a normal human's femur bones, over 2 meters long, and an overall height projected to be between 12 and 15 meters tall. The tale of the giant skeleton at Mufu Mountain didn't become famous simply because of the creature's massive size. What truly elevated it from a strange rumor to a haunting mystery was what happened next, or rather, what didn't. According to multiple versions of the story circulating on online forums and mystery YouTube channels, the discovery was sudden and shocking. Deep in the misty wilderness of China's Hubei province, a team of workers, perhaps miners or surveyors, stumbled upon something extraordinary buried inside a cave system. A skeleton unmistakably human in shape but impossibly large. A skull several times the size of a normal adult's femur bones, over 2 meters long, and a body that experts supposedly estimated would have stood more than 12 meters tall when alive. But just as quickly as this discovery surfaced, it vanished. Within days, sources claimed that a special unit arrived at the site, possibly military, possibly governmental. The area was sealed off. Photographs were confiscated. Equipment was seized. Those who were present reportedly signed non-disclosure agreements or were warned to stay silent. And from that moment on, the skeleton was never seen or mentioned in any official report again. No museum exhibit, no academic paper, No media coverage, nothing. To skeptics, this is a sure sign of fabrication. But to believers, it's a chillingly familiar pattern. Around the world, stories of giant skeletons follow the same script: a sudden awe-inspiring discovery, followed by disappearance censorship or denial. Consider the now infamous 2004 image claiming a giant human skeleton found in Saudi Arabia. The photo showing military personnel digging around a massive humanoid skeleton went viral. It was later exposed as a hoax photoshopped using an elephant fossil dig. Still, millions believed it, and many still do. Then there are the American newspaper articles from the 19th and early 20th centuries, the New York Times, Scientific American, and others reporting skeletons over 9 feet tall unearthed in burial mounds across Ohio, California, and Wisconsin. These skeletons, too, reportedly vanished after being sent to the Smithsonian. To this day, some accuse the institution of intentionally suppressing artifacts that don't fit within accepted evolutionary timelines. So, when we hear that a giant skeleton in China was discovered, then erased, it's not entirely unfamiliar. Whether urban myth or cover-up, it taps into a deeper anxiety that some truths might be too disruptive to share. What if such a skeleton, if real, could rewrite human history, undermine established science, challenge spiritual doctrines? Some suggest it's safer to bury the truth literally. The Mufu Mountain skeleton is not an isolated story. Across the ancient world, giants appear again and again, not just in folklore, but in religious texts, oral histories, and early writings. From the Nephilim of the Hebrew Bible, to the Rakshasa of Indian epics, to the Titans of Greek mythology, giants seem to be a universal motif. Is that because all cultures coincidentally invented the same symbol? Or could it point to something more profound, an ancient memory passed down over generations, dimmed by time and myth, but rooted in something real? Consider the Nephilim described in Genesis as the heroes of old men of renown, born from unions between divine beings and humans. Or the Patagonian giants reportedly encountered by Ferdinand Magellan's crew in South America, said to stand twice the height of an average man. In Norse mythology, the Jötnar were elemental beings that predated the gods themselves. Even indigenous Australian legends speak of enormous ancestral beings who shaped the land. Could these be cultural metaphors or echoes of a forgotten reality? Some researchers argue it's the latter. Michael Cremo, author of Forbidden Archaeology, suggests that fossil remains and artifacts of ancient giant hominins have been systematically excluded from mainstream science because they don't fit Darwinian models. Similarly, Richard Dewhurst in The Ancient Giants Who Ruled America compiles hundreds of historical accounts of giant skeletons uncovered in Native American burial sites, accounts that were later dismissed or discredited. Even mainstream science has stumbled upon puzzles. In Indonesia, fossilized remains labeled Meganthropus paleojavanicus suggest a massive hominid with unusually large jawbones and cranial features. While their classification remains debated, they hint at the possibility of ancient humans or human-like relatives far larger than we've imagined. And then there's Robert Wadlow, the Alton giant, whose verified height of 8 feet 11 inches 2.72 meters makes him the tallest human in recorded history. His condition due to pituitary gland hyperplasia reminds us that the human body can grow beyond conventional limits under the right biological circumstances. Could the legends of giants simply be stories built around rare individuals like Wadlow, or are they diluted memories of a time when such beings were not anomalies but a different kind of human altogether? In the case of the Mufu Mountain skeleton, we may never know, but the question it leaves behind is more powerful than any answer. What if we are not the first dominant version of humanity, And what if remnants of a forgotten age are still buried beneath our feet, waiting to be uncovered again? So what if the story of Mufu Mountain isn't just a legend? What if what we call pseudo-science or mythology is actually a garbled memory, an echo of something once real, now lost to time and disbelief? From a scientific standpoint, there is no verified evidence of humans exceeding 3 meters in height. Biological constraints, such as cardiovascular pressure and skeletal load, make a 12 to 15 meter tall human biologically implausible. However, believers often point to real-world anomalies. Robert Wadlow of the United States, the tallest person ever recorded, stood at 8 feet 11 inches, about 2.72 meters, before his death in 1940. His height was caused by a pituitary gland disorder, suggesting that extreme size is possible under rare genetic conditions. The fossilized remains, known as Meganthropus, discovered in Indonesia, have been estimated by some to belong to a human-like creature nearly 3 meters tall, though there's debate over whether it was truly human or a type of prehistoric ape. Science has not conclusively disproven these possibilities. It simply hasn't yet found sufficient evidence to confirm them. Whether real or not, the legend of the giant skeleton at Mufu Mountain continues to live on in the minds of those drawn to ancient mysteries. It represents the thin boundary between accepted archaeology and alternative theories, the edge of what science has explored and what imagination dares to consider. In our modern world, where everything must be backed by data and verified by peer-review, stories like this remind us of something older. Deeper curiosity is one of humanity's most powerful instincts. And sometimes it's not the answers that drive us, but the questions we still can't explain. Hidden among the misty forests of southern China lies the ancient city of Guluo, also known as Kulu, a place far removed from the grandeur of the Forbidden City and absent from popular tourist itineraries. But it is precisely this quiet obscurity that makes Guluo one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in architectural history. Guluo has stood for thousands of years. And the most astonishing thing, many sections of its walls are still intact, having survived centuries of earthquakes, erosion, and natural decay without using a single drop of cement or any form of modern adhesive. How could mere bricks stacked without mortar endure the force of nature and the passing of ages? When stepping into the ruins of the ancient city of Guluo, what stops any researcher in their tracks is not its grandeur, but rather the uncanny stillness of the stone walls that have stood for millennia. They are not towering nor fully intact, yet they remain standing firm, precise, and assembled without a single drop of mortar. According to analysis conducted by an archaeological team from the Southwest University of Architecture in China, the stone blocks or fired bricks used in Guluo were carved with an extraordinary level of precision. Deep grooves, raised ridges, and carefully shaped contact surfaces allowed each block to lock tightly with the next, forming a self-supporting structure. Much like the stones of the Egyptian pyramids, whose gaps are often less than 1 millimeter wide, Guluo's construction reflects a deep understanding of mechanical force and a craftsmanship so advanced that even modern technologies would struggle to replicate it. But that is not the strangest part. In 2003, an earthquake exceeding 6.0 on the Richter scale struck near the Guluo region. According to a report in People's Daily, hundreds of modern concrete homes in nearby villages suffered cracks and even partial collapse. Yet when engineers inspected the remaining portions of Guluo's walls, they found no major cracks whatsoever. Despite having weathered centuries of erosion and discoloration, the ancient walls remained precisely in place, as if the very ground beneath them had never trembled. This raises a crucial question. How could a structure built without rebar, without a modern foundation, withstand seismic activity better than many buildings made with today's materials? Some researchers suggest that it's precisely the dry stacked construction method with minimal gaps and natural breathing space that gave the structure its resilience. Unlike concrete, which is hard but brittle, the physically flexible nature of Guluo's masonry allows it to sway slightly with ground movement, absorbing shock and reducing the risk of catastrophic failure. This principle mirrors the seismic-resistant design used in some modern Japanese architecture, which incorporates sliding bases or shock-absorbing platforms to help buildings survive earthquakes. Moreover, local materials played a significant role. The stones used in Guluo were often sourced from riverside quarries possessing a fine-grained structure, high compressive strength, and a surprising degree of elasticity. Added to this, the ancient builders designed the walls with a subtle outward tilt, helping to better distribute vertical load into the ground, unlike the perpendicular pressure found in most modern wall systems. These details, from the interlocking joints and the selection of stone to the slanted wall geometry, suggest that the builders of Guluo were not merely working from experience, but may have understood and applied natural physical principles far ahead of their time. And it is precisely this that continues to baffle modern scholars today. Guluo was more than a fortress. It was also a center of military operations and spiritual reverence. The gates of the city were topped with multi-tiered wooden towers that served two purposes: one, as observation points to spot approaching enemies, and two, as sacred spaces to worship guardian deities of the borderlands. This dual-purpose design, placing sacred watchtowers directly above the city's main entrances, reveals a deeper worldview among ancient builders. Territory was to be protected not only by weapons, but also by faith. Similar architectural philosophies were recorded in historical military texts from the Ming and Qing dynasties, such as Nanjiang Beilan, which documented fortifications across China's southern frontier. To this day, locals living near the ruins of Guluo continue to share strange stories. Some believe the walls never fall because they are spiritually sealed by the souls of their ancestors. Others say that on nights when earthquakes strike, they hear metallic clanging deep within the ground, as if the city itself were awakening to defend itself. Though science dismisses these tales as folklore, one fact remains: modern explanations still cannot fully account for the enduring resilience of Guluo's structure. Today, remnants of Guluo's city walls, watchtowers, gate foundations, and weathered stone inscriptions still remain. While it is not listed among UNESCO's World Heritage Sites, many researchers consider it a living symbol of lost construction wisdom. In 2019, a team of architecture students from the Southwest University of Architecture visited the site. In their field report, they wrote, "No mortar, no frame, no steel, and yet it has stood strong for over 1,000 years. Perhaps we need to learn more from the past than we thought." Guluo doesn't cry out to be explored. It simply stands enduring rain war and earthquakes in silence. Perhaps that's its way of reminding us. Not everything that lasts must be modern, and not every mystery needs to be dissected. With every patch of moss growing across its stones, Guluo adds another quiet line to an unfinished story, one that asks, how did the ancients build something that could defy time itself? In the vast and unending flow of ancient Chinese history, two mysterious symbols have emerged like whispers from the universe: the river map, He-Tu, and the Luo diagram, Luo-Shu. These enigmatic illustrations are not merely products of imagination. They are considered foundational elements of the entire system of Eastern philosophy. Strangely enough, even today. Modern science still cannot fully explain how they came into existence, or why they encode such precise principles regarding the cosmos, mathematics, yin and yang, and the five elements. Without computers measuring instruments, or even mathematical notation as we know it today, how could the ancients have created diagrams that seem to transcend their time? The origins of the river map and the Luo diagram are inseparably tied to sacred legends. It is said that from the depths of the Yellow River, a mythical creature appeared, a Longma, a divine beast with the body of a horse and the scales of a dragon. Upon its back appeared a diagram made of black and white dots. This was the river map. Not long after, in the waters of the Luo River, a giant turtle surfaced, bearing a mysterious pattern on its shell. This was the Luo diagram. Ancient texts like Huainanzi and Shangshu record that these symbols emerged thousands of years before the Common Era, during the reigns of legendary rulers such as Yao Shun and Yu the Great. The ancients believed these were mandates from heaven, messages sent to help humans understand the laws of the cosmos and govern in harmony with the natural order. At first glance, the Heitu River map and the Luo Shu Luo diagram may appear to be nothing more than simple drawings, just dots or numbers arranged in a square. But upon closer inspection, these ancient diagrams reveal an astonishing depth of abstract thinking far beyond the era in which they emerged. They are not merely products of imagination. They reflect a sophisticated cognitive system that encodes knowledge of cosmology, yin-yang theory, mathematical combinations, and natural principles at a time when most of humanity still relied primarily on intuition and empirical observation. The Heitu, according to legend, appeared on the back of a Longma, a mythical creature with a horse's body and dragon scales rising from the Yellow River. The diagram consists of black and white dots representing odd and even numbers corresponding to yang and yin, respectively grouped into numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These numbers are not randomly placed. They align with cardinal directions, east-west, south-north, and the center, as well as diagonal orientations. Each direction correlates with one of the five elements. Wuxing 1 represents water, 2 is fire, 3 is wood, 4 is metal, and 5 is earth. But what is truly remarkable is not the numerical assignments themselves, but how the numbers and their positions reflect the operating laws of the natural world, from seasons and weather to the birth, growth, and decline of all living things. Professor Joseph Needham, a renowned Western scholar who dedicated his life to studying ancient Chinese science, described the Heitu as an early cosmological map, a symbolic system in which human beings sought to model the universe through intuitive yet structured thinking. In his words, this is not just an ancient symbol, it is a system of expression, a conceptual tool to simulate reality through abstract representation. Indeed, from the Heitu, later philosophers constructed the earlier heaven Xiantian arrangement of the 8 trigrams Bagua, a model that depicts the fundamental states of change in nature and serves as the foundation of the I Ching Book of Changes. If the Heitu represents dynamic cosmological movement, then the Luo Shu embodies stability, harmony, and inner order. The Luo Shu is said to have appeared on the back of a sacred turtle, surfacing from the Luo River, bearing a mysterious pattern that would later become known as the oldest magic square in human history. This 3D3 square contains 9 numbers from 1 to 9, arranged in such a way that the sum of each row column and both diagonals is exactly 15. No line breaks this rule. It is a perfect mathematical structure, still regarded by modern mathematicians as one of the most elegant early achievements in number theory. The number 15 culturally corresponds to the full moon, on the 15th day of the lunar month, symbolizing completeness and cosmic balance. What puzzles scholars is that there is no evidence the Luo Shu emerged from a series of progressive refinements. Instead, it appears already fully formed with no known prototypes or rough drafts. Even more intriguing, each number in the Luo Shu seems to carry deeper symbolic meaning. The number 5 lies at the center like an axis of the universe representing humanity or the intersection of heaven and earth. The surrounding numbers are arranged in symmetrical balance, echoing the cyclical flow of celestial forces, seasons, and life energies. While the West only began engaging with magic squares through Pythagoras, and more clearly in the works of European artists in the 16th century, the Luo Shu had already been documented in Chinese texts over 4,000 years ago. This means the Luo Shu predates Western magic squares by more than 1,500 years. In his monumental work Science and Civilization in China, Joseph Needham praised the Luo Shu as a mathematical miracle that integrates philosophy, cosmology, and spatial logic into a unified whole. To him, the Chinese magic square was not a numerical puzzle, it was a method of abstracting reality into a symbolic, structured order. Neither the Heitu nor the Luo Shu exists in isolation. They are foundational frameworks from which the entire philosophical system of East Asia evolved. From them came the principles of yin and yang, the 5 elements, both earlier heaven and later heaven bagua, flying star feng shui calendar systems, traditional Chinese medicine, and even ancient urban planning under the Zhou dynasty. What perplexes modern researchers most is this: how could a civilization without modern instruments or theoretical tools produce such precise, abstract, and comprehensive symbolic systems? Perhaps the answer lies in generations of careful observation of nature. Or perhaps it points to a form of intuition or cognition that we have since lost, a way of perceiving the cosmos not through analytical dissection, but through holistic feeling symbolism and pattern recognition. Whatever the case, the continued existence of the Heitu and Luo Shu stands as undeniable evidence of the impossible, that ancient human beings may have understood the universe in ways more profound than modern science has yet to comprehend. Modern science, amazement, and frustration. Since the 20th century, many Western scholars have attempted to trace the origins and structure of the river map and Luo diagram. But most of their efforts stop at proposing cultural hypotheses rather than offering concrete explanations. A 2016 article in the journal Nature, in its discussion of ancient magic squares, described the Luo diagram as a unique anomaly, a system that is both perfectly symmetrical and strictly logical, yet with no clear archaeological precedent. Not only Eastern researchers but many international scholars have also recognized that these symbols do not seem to originate from any known textual tradition, but instead resemble a kind of metaphysical inspiration from a long-lost form of knowledge. And yet they persist, transcending time, continuing to influence thousands of years of historical development. What many people don't realize is that the river map and Luo diagram are not just philosophical symbols, they directly shaped multiple traditional scientific disciplines in East Asia. In the I Ching, the river map serves as the foundation for constructing the cosmological model of Taiji supreme polarity, yin-yang 4 symbols, and the 8 trigrams. The Luo diagram, in turn, forms the basis of the earlier heaven arrangement and calendrical numerology used in astronomy and divination. In Feng Shui, the Flying Star School, one of the most prominent systems was built directly from the Luo diagram. The numbers in this magic square correspond to time-space direction and energy flow, and are used to determine auspicious and inauspicious positions in building houses or designing tombs. Even in traditional Chinese medicine, the 5 elements theory metal, wood, water, fire, earth, is derived from the river map. The cycles of internal organs, the flow of qi and blood, the methods of diagnosis and treatment all depend on these models to find harmony among the body's systems. Through the passage of time and dynasties, the river map and Luo diagram have persisted like two missing pieces in humanity's quest for cosmic understanding. No one truly knows where they originated, who first deciphered them, or how they could so precisely model the natural laws of the universe. They seem like remnants of a civilization with knowledge far beyond its era, or perhaps the product of an extraordinary intuition, one powerful enough to give rise to an entire philosophical tradition that has lasted for millennia. Sometimes what cannot be explained is exactly what keeps humanity searching. And perhaps that is why these mysterious diagrams from the two rivers He-Tu and Luo-Shu continue to live on in our imagination and in our yearning to reach the deepest truths of the cosmos. In the quiet plains of Shanxi province, China, lies an archaeological site called Taosi, a forgotten settlement over 4,000 years old, dating back to the late Neolithic era. For decades, researchers believed it to be just another walled town, typical of the Longshan culture, known for its early urban development and pottery. But in 2003, that perception changed forever. A team of Chinese archaeologists led by experts from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences unearthed something entirely unexpected: a circular structure made of rammed earth, approximately 60 meters in diameter, with 13 slots or gates arranged around its perimeter. It wasn't a palace, it wasn't a tomb. They believed they had uncovered an ancient astronomical observatory, possibly one of the oldest ever constructed by human hands. In 2003, archaeologists from the Institute of Archaeology of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, led by Professor Liu Li, uncovered a circular structure within the Taosi site, initially identified as a ceremonial platform. However, after conducting precise measurements, using GPS and modern astronomical tools, they realized this was no ordinary ritual space. The structure featured 13 slot-like openings arranged in an arc on a rammed earth platform, nearly 60 meters wide, and it was sunlight that revealed its true purpose. During key solar events, summer solstice, winter solstice, spring, and autumn equinoxes, sunlight passed directly through specific slots. This indicated that the builders had been observing the sun's annual movement across the horizon for years, perhaps generations, in order to align each opening with the precise points of sunrise and sunset at different times of the year. Researchers such as Zhang Peiheng, an astronomer from Peking University, concluded that the structure functioned as a living solar calendar, enabling an agrarian society to determine when to plant, harvest, and possibly conduct seasonal rituals. Even more remarkably, the people of Taosi had no metal tools, no telescopes, and no writing system. Yet they constructed a solar tracking device with degree-level precision, a feat that continues to astound modern scientists. At a time when Europe had not yet completed its megalithic monuments, and Mesopotamian astronomers still relied on shadow sticks, gnomons, the ancient Chinese were already using light-based architecture to track celestial bodies. So who built it? Taosi was not a city of stone, but one of rammed earth and timber. And yet the existence of such a sophisticated timekeeping structure indicates a society where astronomy, ritual, and political power were deeply intertwined. Some archaeologists suggest that this observatory was part of a ritual calendar used by an elite class to determine the most auspicious times for planting, harvesting, and conducting sacred ceremonies. In such a society, the ability to read the sky would bestow not just respect, but cosmic authority. Here, astronomy may have served as both a practical science and a legitimizing tool of leadership, placing the power to control time and thus society in the hands of a select few. In ancient civilizations, astronomy was never separate from spirituality, and Taoisi appears to be a perfect example of this union. Traditional Chinese philosophy views the universe as governed by the harmony of heaven Tian Earth Di and humanity Ren. For humans to thrive, they must live in accordance with heaven's mandate known as Tianming. Measuring time was not merely a tool for farming, but also a spiritual and political act. Those who could read the heavens were believed to be divine mediators entrusted with cosmic authority. Near the Taoisi Observatory, archaeologists uncovered what they believed to be a sacrificial pit filled with human remains, animal bones, and broken pottery. They also found a massive stone drum, likely used during solar rituals, and a series of large tombs believed to belong to chieftains or priest rulers who controlled the calendar. Professor Fang Hui of Shandong University stated at a 2011 academic conference that these findings suggest the observatory was not just a scientific instrument, but also a cosmic ritual center, a place where leaders used the interplay of light and shadow to commune with the divine. If Egyptian pharaohs used pyramids to launch their souls toward the star Sirius, then the moment sunlight pierced through the Taoisi gates on the winter solstice may have marked the arrival of divine presence. It was not merely the sun, it was the will of the cosmos measured in architecture. Rather than separating science from faith, the people of Taoisi merged them into one. And that is what makes the observatory so difficult for modern minds to interpret, since today's science often insists on isolating reason from the sacred. Mainstream history often credits Mesopotamia or Egypt as the birthplace of astronomy. But Taoisi compels us to reconsider. If a Neolithic Chinese civilization could build a solar observatory with remarkable accuracy by 2300 BCE, what else have we underestimated? This structure predates Babylonian star maps, Greek planetary models, fully realized European megaliths, and yet it is almost entirely unknown outside of China. No written records remain from Taoisi. Everything we know comes from the alignment of light soil and stone interpreted through archaeological evidence rather than ancient texts. Even after years of study, many questions remain. Why was this structure abandoned so early? Why are there no similar observatories found in nearby regions? How did ancient builders achieve such precision without metal tools or writing? Even the true purpose of the observatory is still debated. Was it simply a solar calendar or part of a larger, lost spiritual or technological system that we no longer understand? The ancient observatory of Taoisi is not just a relic of the past. It's a reminder of how much we still don't know and perhaps never will using science alone. It challenges our assumptions about early humans, about where knowledge comes from, and about the delicate intersection of intellect, belief, and nature. Because sometimes the most powerful mysteries are the ones that align perfectly with the sun, then disappear into shadow. What if one of the most advanced cities of the ancient world wasn't found in Egypt, Mesopotamia, or the Americas, but in the windswept steppe of southern Russia, almost lost to history? This is Archaeum, an archaeological site, so mysterious, so mathematically and astronomically precise that it has been called Russia's Stonehenge. But Archaeum is more than a curiosity, it's a direct challenge to what we think we know about the capabilities of Bronze Age civilizations, a discovery that almost didn't happen. In 1987, Soviet engineers were preparing to flood a region in the Ural steppe to create a reservoir. The area was considered unremarkable, flat, remote, empty. But then a team of archaeologists uncovered something buried beneath the soil, an ancient, perfectly circular city over 4,000 years old. The plans to flood the area were immediately halted. The site was named Archaeum, and what began as a routine geological survey became one of the most unexpected archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, a city of circles and cosmic geometry. What sets Archaeum apart isn't just its age, it's its design. Seen from above, Archaeum consists of two concentric circular walls, enclosing over 60 semi-subterranean dwellings, arranged in perfect symmetry. The city is precisely aligned to the cardinal directions. But it goes even further. The main entrance's wall positions and street orientations all line up with key solar and lunar events, the summer and winter solstices, equinoxes, and lunar standstills. These alignments have led researchers to believe that Archaeum functioned as an observatory capable of tracking celestial bodies with remarkable accuracy. Sound familiar? It should. Archaeum's layout bears striking similarities to Stonehenge in England and Nabta Playa in Egypt, both ancient sites thought to have astronomical significance. But Archaeum takes it further. Unlike Stonehenge, which is a collection of standing stones, Archaeum was a fully functional city. People lived, worked, and possibly worshipped here under a night sky they carefully studied. Who built Archaeum? The site is attributed to the Sintashta culture, an Indo-European group from the Bronze Age, known for their early use of chariots and metallurgy. But here's the problem. Nothing else in their archaeological record suggests they had the capacity for such precise urban planning or cosmological knowledge. Most Sintashta settlements were small, practical, and unremarkable. So why is Archaeum so different? Why build a city with this level of complexity in such a remote and harsh environment? Some researchers propose that Archaeum may have been a ritual or ceremonial center rather than just a habitation site. The city's layout, with its outer and inner rings, resembles ancient mandala designs used in spiritual traditions. Could it have had symbolic meaning? Could its design reflect more than just physical needs? Mysteries mainstream science can't fully explain. Despite decades of research, Archaeum remains full of unanswered questions. Why was the city constructed with such precision when other contemporary sites show no such planning? How did these people with no written language and only Bronze Age tools align their buildings with celestial events down to degrees? Why was it abandoned after only a few generations? And why does Archaeum's geometric structure resemble sacred symbols found in completely unrelated ancient cultures? These questions have led to waves of speculation, some academic, some fringe. The theories from Aryans to lost civilizations. Some historians suggest Archaeum was a birthplace of the Indo-Iranian Aryan people, referencing Vedic texts that describe sacred circular cities in the north. Others go further, proposing links to Atlantis-like lost civilizations or even prehistoric energy grids aligned across the Earth. To be clear, mainstream archaeologists dismiss these claims as pseudoscience, but even they admit Archaeum is anomalous. Its level of architectural planning, astronomical alignment, and symbolic geometry is far beyond what was expected of the Bronze Age steppe cultures. If we compare Archaeum to sites like Teotihuacan in Mexico or the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, we see similar patterns: monumental design with cosmic alignment. Structures made not just for living, but for observing, worshipping, and symbolizing. A sudden rise in complexity that outpaces other nearby cultures. In each case, the same question lingers. Was there a forgotten layer of ancient knowledge, mathematical, astronomical, symbolic, that we've only barely begun to rediscover? Nearly lost forever. And perhaps most haunting of all is this: we nearly missed it. If the Soviet reservoir had gone ahead just weeks earlier, Archaeum would be underwater, its secrets drowned and lost for good. This isn't just a mystery, it's a near miss with historical extinction. How many other ancient sites have we already buried, flooded, or built over without even knowing? What Archaeological leaves behind? Today, Archaeological stands not only as a preserved ruin, but as a living question mark. Was it just a one-off masterpiece of the Sintashta? Or is it a remnant of a deeper lost tradition, one that saw the world in circles, stars, and sacred order? As we continue to study the city's ruins, one truth becomes harder to ignore. Our ancestors may have been far more advanced, mathematically, spiritually, and cosmologically, than we've been taught. History, it turns out, isn't linear. Sometimes it's circular, like Archaeological. In the heart of Delhi, within the Qutb Minar complex, stands a towering column of iron that has endured not just the test of time, but something even more relentless, the elements. For over 1,600 years, the Delhi Iron Pillar has remained virtually rust-free, despite being fully exposed to the scorching Indian sun, torrential monsoon rains, and Delhi's heavily polluted air. At first glance, it might seem like just another ancient monument. But this 7-meter, 6.5-ton column has done something that modern iron and steel often fail to do: survive centuries without corrosion. In any other part of the world, a piece of iron this old standing out in the open would be nothing but a flaky, rusted ruin. Instead, the Delhi Iron Pillar looks eerily untouched, its surface dark and smooth, with only the faintest signs of weathering. And that is where the mystery begins. For decades, metallurgists have tried to unlock the secret of this rust-proof marvel. The answer, it turns out, lies in a combination of ancient metallurgy, environmental conditions, and an accidental miracle of chemistry. First, the pillar is made of wrought iron, not the cast or modern mild steel we use today. And this ancient wrought iron has a very high phosphorus content, about 0.25%, which is several times higher than what's allowed in modern steel production. In modern iron-making, phosphorus is considered an impurity. It makes iron brittle, so modern methods intentionally remove it. But ancient Indian blacksmiths, working with low-temperature charcoal-fueled furnaces, couldn't remove phosphorus, and that may have been their unintended genius. When exposed to Delhi's monsoon climate, the iron's phosphorus reacted with moisture and oxygen over time to form a unique passive protective layer, a compound now known as White G-Fe. This thin film of iron hydrogen phosphate hydrate acts as a barrier, preventing further oxygen and water from reaching the surface of the iron beneath. In effect, the pillar seals itself off from rust. But there's more. The surface of the pillar has micro cracks and slag particles, imperfections that you'd think would speed up corrosion. Yet those features seem to have actually helped trap moisture, allowing the passive layer to form more consistently across the surface. Over centuries, this layer thickened, hardened, and made the pillar resistant to further degradation. The Delhi climate may have also played a quiet but crucial role. Alternating dry heat and humid rain created the perfect slow-cook conditions to foster White's formation. Too much rain would have washed the passive layer away. Too little humidity, and it wouldn't form at all. But the Indian subcontinent's rhythmic monsoon pattern allowed the layer to build gradually and stay intact. This means the pillar's preservation is not just about its composition, but also about its location. Move it to a different climate, and it might rust just like any modern iron. Here's the twist: despite understanding the chemistry, we still can't fully replicate the effect. Modern metallurgists can synthesize White in labs, but doing it naturally, without coating, without alloys, and on a massive object is nearly impossible. Today's iron doesn't contain enough phosphorus, and our environments are too controlled or too corrosive. So even with advanced technology, we have not yet created a rust-proof iron column like the one forged over 1,600 years ago by hand with primitive tools. The Delhi Iron Pillar isn't just a monument, it's a living paradox. A product of ancient India's blacksmithing skill, spiritual significance, and perhaps a bit of environmental luck, it defies our assumptions about what ancient civilizations were capable of. It raises unsettling questions. Did ancient Indian metallurgists understand more about materials than we give them credit for? Was this simply a lucky accident, or the result of empirical knowledge passed down through generations? And what other secrets of ancient technology have we overlooked, buried in plain sight? Until we can recreate what was once done over 1,000 years ago without the help of modern science, the Delhi Iron Pillar will remain one of the greatest archaeological and metallurgical mysteries in the world. The Plain of Jars. Archaeological mysteries. Science can't explain. Hidden deep in the misty highlands of central Laos lies one of the world's most enigmatic archaeological landscapes. Across vast grassy plains, thousands of enormous stone jars rest silently, weathered by time and mystery. Known collectively as the Plain of Jars, these megalithic vessels have puzzled scientists, archaeologists, and historians for decades, not just because of their size and number, but because of the complete absence of answers about who made them, why they were made, and how they were even transported. Spread across more than 80 separate sites, over 2,500 stone jars dot the landscape of Zhangjiang province. Some are as small as a barrel, others stand taller than a human, with the largest weighing over 10 tons. They are carved from various types of rock, sandstone, granite, and limestone, and most are hollow and lidless, their surfaces rough yet purposeful. No inscriptions have ever been found on these jars. No markings to identify a culture, no writing to suggest ownership or meaning. They simply exist, standing mute against centuries of wind and war. One of the most haunting aspects of the Plain of Jars is its location. Many jars were placed on remote hillsides or elevated ridges far from any known source of stone. Yet there is no evidence of wheels or metal tools having existed at the time of their construction, making their creation and transportation an engineering feat we still cannot fully explain. There are no roads, no quarries nearby, and no remnants of a civilization advanced enough according to current timelines to have created such a monument. So, what were they for? Over the years, several theories have emerged, but none can be proven with certainty. The most widely accepted academic explanation is that the jars were part of ancient funerary practices used to hold human remains either before cremation or as part of secondary burial rituals. Supporting this theory are the findings of bones, burial goods, and pottery fragments at some sites. Yet the scarcity of such discoveries at others complicates this conclusion. Meanwhile, local folklore tells a different story. In Laotian legend, the jars were made by a race of giants victorious in battle who used the vessels to brew enormous quantities of rice wine. It's a fantastical idea, yet in the absence of hard facts, myth begins to feel oddly plausible. Others believe the jars were used to store rainwater during long dry seasons or as fermentation vats for food or drink, although no chemical residue has ever confirmed these functions. As if the mystery wasn't thick enough, a more recent and tragic layer has been added. During the Vietnam War, the area surrounding the Plain of Jars was heavily bombed, making Laos the most bombed country per capita in history. Today, large parts of the region remain contaminated by unexploded ordnance UXO, and many of the jar sites are considered too dangerous for excavation. This has severely limited archaeological research and left many questions quite literally buried in the ground. What makes the Plain of Jars even more remarkable is that it has no direct parallel elsewhere in Southeast Asia. The site predates the region's Buddhist architecture and its creators left behind no temples, no cities, not even a known name. Unlike Egypt's pyramids or Peru's Nazca lines, the jars stand completely disconnected from any known cultural lineage. Some researchers have likened the mystery to other global anomalies, Stonehenge in England, the Moai of Easter Island, but these comparisons only emphasize how unique and isolated the Lao jars truly are. In 2019, UNESCO finally recognized the Plain of Jars as a World Heritage Site, affirming its cultural and archaeological significance. Yet even with that recognition, it remains a site of questions without answers. Who carved them? With what tools? How did they move them across rugged terrain? Why are there no carvings, no symbols, no apparent purpose? In a world where satellites can map every inch of the planet and machines can decode ancient texts, the Plain of Jars reminds us that some mysteries endure. Silent, immovable, and strange beyond understanding, these ancient jars may hold secrets that time has erased, or that we are simply not ready to uncover. What if the answers lie not in what we can prove, but in the humility of admitting what we do not yet know? What if one of the most advanced cities of the ancient world wasn't found in Egypt, Mesopotamia, or the Americas, but in the windswept steppe of southern Russia, almost lost to history? This is Archaeum, an archaeological site so mysterious, so mathematically and astronomically precise that it has been called Russia's Stonehenge. But Archaeum is more than a curiosity. It's a direct challenge to what we think we know about the capabilities of Bronze Age civilizations, a discovery that almost didn't happen. In 1987, Soviet engineers were preparing to flood a region in the Ural steppe to create a reservoir. The area was considered unremarkable, flat, remote, empty. But then a team of archaeologists uncovered something buried beneath the soil, an ancient, perfectly circular city over 4,000 years old. The plans to flood the area were immediately halted. The site was named Archaeum, and what began as a routine geological survey became one of the most unexpected archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, a city of circles and cosmic geometry. What sets Archaeum apart isn't just its age, it's its design. Seen from above, Archaeum consists of two concentric circular walls enclosing over 60 semi-subterranean dwellings, arranged in perfect symmetry. The city is precisely aligned to the cardinal directions, but it goes even further. The main entrance's wall positions and street orientations all line up with key solar and lunar events, the summer and winter solstices, equinoxes, and lunar standstills. These alignments have led researchers to believe that Archaeum functioned as an observatory capable of tracking celestial bodies with remarkable accuracy. Sound familiar? It should. Archaeum's layout bears striking similarities to Stonehenge in England and Nabta Playa in Egypt, both ancient sites thought to have astronomical significance. But Archaeum takes it further. Unlike Stonehenge, which is a collection of standing stones, Archaeum was a fully functional city. People lived, worked, and possibly worshipped here under a night sky they carefully studied. Who built Archaeum? The site is attributed to the Sintashta culture, an Indo-European group from the Bronze Age, known for their early use of chariots and metallurgy. But here's the problem. Nothing else in their archaeological record suggests they had the capacity for such precise urban planning or cosmological knowledge. Most Sintashta settlements were small, practical, and unremarkable. So why is Archaeum so different? Why build a city with this level of complexity in such a remote and harsh environment? Some researchers propose that Archaeum may have been a ritual or ceremonial center rather than just a habitation site. The city's layout, with its outer and inner rings, resembles ancient mandala designs used in spiritual traditions. Could it have had symbolic meaning? Could its design reflect more than just physical needs? Mysteries mainstream science can't fully explain. Despite decades of research, Archaeum remains full of unanswered questions. Why was the city constructed with such precision when other contemporary sites show no such planning? How did these people, with no written language and only Bronze Age tools, align their buildings with celestial events down to degrees? Why was it abandoned after only a few generations? And why does Archaeum's geometric structure resemble sacred symbols found in completely unrelated ancient cultures? These questions have led to waves of speculation, some academic, some fringe. The theories from Aryans to lost civilizations. Some historians suggest Archaeum was a birthplace of the Indo-Iranian Aryan people, referencing Vedic texts that describe sacred circular cities in the north. Others go further, proposing links to Atlantis-like lost civilizations or even prehistoric energy grids aligned across the Earth. To be clear, mainstream archaeologists dismiss these claims as pseudoscience, but even they admit Archaeum is anomalous. Its level of architectural planning, astronomical alignment, and symbolic geometry is far beyond what was expected of the Bronze Age steppe cultures. If we compare Archaeum to sites like Teotihuacan in Mexico or the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, we see similar patterns: monumental design with cosmic alignment. Structures made not just for living, but for observing, worshipping, and symbolizing. A sudden rise in complexity that outpaces other nearby cultures. In each case, the same question lingers. Was there a forgotten layer of ancient knowledge, mathematical, astronomical, symbolic, that we've only barely begun to rediscover, nearly lost forever? And perhaps most haunting of all is this: we nearly missed it. If the Soviet reservoir had gone ahead just weeks earlier, Archaeum would be underwater, its secrets drowned and lost for good. This isn't just a mystery, it's a near miss with historical extinction. How many other ancient sites have we already buried, flooded, or built over, without even knowing what Archaeum leaves behind? Today, Archaeum stands not only as a preserved ruin, but as a living question mark. Was it just a one-off masterpiece of the Sintashta, or is it a remnant of a deeper lost tradition, one that saw the world in circles, stars, and sacred order? As we continue to study the city's ruins, one truth becomes harder to ignore. Our ancestors may have been far more advanced mathematically, spiritually, and cosmologically than we've been taught. History, it turns out, isn't linear. Sometimes it's circular, like Archaeum. Off the coast of Japan, something massive sleeps beneath the waves, silent, carved, and impossible to ignore. In 1986, a diver surfaced with a discovery that would stir decades of debate: a sprawling stone formation with staircases, terraces, and massive flat platforms lying 25 meters beneath the surface near Yonaguni Island. Today, it's known as the Yonaguni Monument, an underwater structure that to many resembles a stepped pyramid fused into solid bedrock. If it was crafted by human hands, it would become the oldest known man-made structure on Earth, rewriting everything we thought we knew about ancient civilization. But the mystery lies not just in what was found, but in what remains unknown. The monument's features are striking: sharp right angles, clean horizontal lines, and layered formations that defy easy explanation. When local diver Kihachiro Arataki first discovered it, even he wasn't sure what he was looking at. Was it a natural formation shaped by ocean currents and tectonic fractures, or was it the sunken remnant of a lost city? As word spread, experts and enthusiasts quickly took sides. Some geologists argued the monument was a textbook case of natural sandstone erosion, aided by fault lines and centuries of underwater weathering. Others pointed to the formation's symmetry and scale suggesting it bore signs of conscious design. Measuring roughly 150 meters in length, the monument lies just off the southern coast of Yonaguni Island, a remote location known for crystal-clear waters and dangerously strong currents. These conditions make deep dives difficult and limit the amount of thorough research that's been done. No official excavation has ever been launched, and the Japanese government has taken no formal stance. Despite this, the site continues to attract global attention from diverse researchers and mystery seekers alike. The scientific debate surrounding Yonaguni is led by two notable figures. On one side is geologist Robert Schoch, who believes the formation is completely natural. According to his analysis, the monument's most dramatic features, its platforms, terraces, and seemingly sculpted surfaces, are the result of natural bedding planes and vertical fractures within the sandstone shaped over millennia by seismic activity and erosion. He even notes that similar formations can be seen elsewhere along the island's northeast coast, undermining the idea that Yonaguni is unique or artificial. In Schoch's view, even features that look like carvings or roads can be explained as natural cracks or channels worn by the sea. On the other side stands Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist who spent decades diving and mapping the site. Kimura is convinced that Yonaguni was created by human hands. He points to pillars, steps, and what he believes are intentional carvings as evidence of architectural planning. His analysis includes areas that resemble stadiums, castle-like formations, and even rudimentary inscriptions on the stone. At one point, he estimated the monument could be over 10,000 years old, placing it at the end of the last ice age, before revising the age to roughly 2,000 and 3,000 years based on tectonic activity. To Kimura, the presence of possible quarry marks, symbols, and geometric consistency across the site suggests that Yonaguni may have been a ceremonial or religious complex belonging to a forgotten civilization. Still, no tools, artifacts, or human remains have ever been recovered from the site, fueling skepticism and keeping the debate unresolved. Without direct evidence, both sides remain at a standstill. But Yonaguni is far from the only location that challenges our understanding of the past. Across the globe, other underwater sites hint at the same possibilities. In India, the submerged city of Dwarka features stone blocks and grid-like foundations that align with ancient Hindu texts. In South America, the ruins beneath Lake Titicaca contain walls and roadways that suggest early settlements long before the waters rose. These sites share a common thread: they're geometrically consistent, eerily structured, and often dismissed as natural coincidences. Yet the broader context, rising sea levels after the last ice age, offers a compelling reason why so many of these structures lie underwater today. As glaciers melted roughly 10,000 years ago, global coastlines shifted dramatically. Entire human settlements may have been swallowed, leaving behind architectural ghosts on the ocean floor. Some, like Kimura, take the theory further, suggesting Yonaguni could be part of the lost continent of Mu, a mythical land said to have sunk beneath the sea in a cataclysm. While such ideas remain speculative and controversial, they reflect our human desire to connect scattered mysteries into a larger narrative of forgotten history. In the end, the Yonaguni monument forces us to confront an uncomfortable possibility that what we know of ancient civilizations might only be part of a much larger and more complex story. Whether natural or man-made, this underwater structure refuses to give up its secrets. And until we explore it with the full tools of modern science, it will remain one of the most haunting archaeological mysteries in the world. The Roman Empire built some of the most legendary structures of all time, But at Baalbek, a site they transformed into a religious center, lies something even they couldn't explain. Buried under their temples are stones so massive that even today's engineers scratch their heads. How could ancient builders lift transport and position blocks weighing over 1,000 tons without modern technology? What if there was a place that predates recorded history where its enigmatic ruins still baffle modern experts? Baalbek, a site nestled in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, fits that description perfectly. This ancient city is more than an archaeological site. It's a puzzle that ties together layers of human history, yet leaves crucial questions unanswered. Today, it's best known for the Roman-era temples that once dominated the landscape. But Baalbek's roots stretch far deeper down, to a time when even written records were scarce or non-existent. The story begins in Lebanon's fertile Bekaa Valley, a crossroads of ancient trade routes, with a strategic position that made it ideal for early civilizations to flourish. Archaeological records suggest that humans have lived here since at least 9000 BCE, placing Baalbek among the oldest continuously inhabited locations on Earth. This uninterrupted habitation underscores its importance, yet the deeper one digs into this timeline, the murkier the origins become. By the time the Phoenicians rose to prominence in the region, Baalbek was already an important spiritual hub. Much of its early significance is attributed to religious worship, and the city's name gives us clues about its mysterious past. The word Baalbek translates roughly to Lord Baal of the Bekaa. Baal, a deity worshipped by the Phoenicians and earlier Semitic peoples, was seen as a powerful god associated with storms, fertility, and the heavens. Naming such a site after Baal suggests it once hosted significant religious activity, possibly even grand rituals lost to history. The Phoenicians, known as masterful seafarers and architects of the ancient world, built sanctuaries to Baal across their territory. It's not hard to imagine that Baalbek may have been one of their most critical religious centers. Nevertheless, even in the Phoenician period, signs point to Baalbek being something much older. Artifacts and ruins from prehistoric times hint at the existence of an even earlier structure beneath what the Phoenicians might have built. This opens up an intriguing question: who first recognized Baalbek's spiritual or strategic significance, and why did they choose this particular location? Some of the region's legends claim the site served as a residence for the gods, a connection that only adds to its allure. Through centuries of change, Baalbek never lost its cultural importance. By the time the Greeks arrived, they recognized the site's sacred nature and even associated it with their own deities, renaming it Heliopolis, or the City of the Sun. When the Romans took control, they elevated Baalbek to new architectural and religious heights. The Temple of Jupiter, standing high above the valley, became a crowning achievement of Roman engineering, and the colossal granite columns still standing today are reminders of their skill. Yet here's the twist: it wasn't the Romans who shaped the site's base. The enormous foundation stones beneath their temples existed long before the Romans ever arrived in Lebanon. Roman builders advanced, as they were simply worked atop what was already there. Experts now know that Baalbek's development involved multiple civilizations, layering their works over centuries, each adding to the city's mystique. However, solid evidence about the original builders remains scarce. There's the theory that Proto-Canaanite groups may have planned its foundations. Others suggest that the builders' knowledge was so advanced for its time that it exceeded anything ordinary civilizations of that era could achieve. To this day, no definitive answer has emerged. In fact, these lingering doubts only deepen the mystery. How did these early constructors achieve the technical precision required to craft the site's massive base? And why did successive civilizations preserve this place so carefully, instead of building elsewhere? These questions thread through archaeological studies of Baalbek, making it one of the world's most tantalizing enigmas. Layer by layer, Baalbek tells us about those who lived thousands of years before us. What began as a religious site tied to Phoenician gods grew under Roman hands into one of the grandest temple complexes in the known world. Yet the story of its origins long before the Romans laid their first stone remains untold. Did the Romans inherit an already ancient structure built by a forgotten civilization? Or do these foundations hold secrets of advanced knowledge we've yet to understand? That's a question we'll explore as we move to the engineering marvel at Baalbek's heart, the Trilithon stones. Imagine standing before stones so massive that even today's most advanced cranes would struggle to lift them. At Baalbek, 3 such stones sit neatly in place, forming part of the Temple of Jupiter's platform. Known as the Trilithon, these limestone blocks weigh roughly 800 tons each. That's the equivalent of 2 fully loaded Boeing 747s per stone. But what's even more astonishing than their size is their placement. The ancient builders not only transported these monoliths nearly a kilometer from a quarry, but also set them with incredible precision. The seams between the stones are so tight that a piece of paper couldn't fit through. Somehow this feat of engineering was accomplished thousands of years ago, leaving one glaring question: how the logistical challenges of moving stones this size would confound even modern infrastructure. To understand just how monumental this task must have been, you need to consider the quarry itself. Sitting nearly 900 meters from the site, the quarry still holds several unfinished stones that push the boundaries of what seems possible. One of these, the so-called Stone of the Pregnant Woman, is only partially buried and weighs over 1,000 tons. Nearby lies another monolith estimated at roughly 1,242 tons, significantly heavier. Then, in 2014, archaeologists made an even more astonishing discovery: another massive stone buried deeper in the quarry, which weighs an estimated 1,650 tons. These discoveries raise critical questions about the methods and resources needed to move such enormous weights, even before considering the task of aligning them perfectly. Many theories attempt to explain how this might have been done. One proposal is that ancient builders used earthen ramps, gradually pulling the stones along with ropes and sledges. However, the friction involved in dragging such massive blocks, even on a well-prepared surface, would require manpower or methods far beyond what we currently associate with ancient civilizations. Then there's the idea of Roman-era cranes, which were advanced for their time and capable of lifting heavy loads. But the weight of the Trilithon stones far exceeds the maximum capacity of any Roman crane, even if multiple cranes were used in coordination. Some experts suggest rolling the blocks on cylindrical wooden logs, a technique seen in other ancient construction efforts. Yet this theory doesn't account for the uneven terrain or the incredible precision seen in the final placement of the stones. Adding to the mystery is the craftsmanship itself. These stones weren't just hauled to the site and dropped in place, they were fitted with an almost surgical level of precision. Unlike other ancient structures that used mortar to fill gaps between stones, the Trilithon blocks sit flush against each other. Their joints are so fine that they're nearly invisible even up close. This kind of accuracy suggests tools or techniques capable of detailed calibration methods that surpass what we typically associate with the Roman period or earlier. And yet the Romans placed their monumental Temple of Jupiter directly above these stones, suggesting they either trusted or marveled at the platform's stability and engineering. The temple, with its towering 19.9-meter columns, was the largest in the Roman Empire, underscoring their ambition to create something unparalleled. Still, When standing on this grand structure, even the Romans couldn't overshadow what lay beneath it. The Trilithon Foundation remains the most enigmatic part of Baalbek's construction, as if it carried secrets no empire could replicate, only inherit. The unfinished monoliths back at the quarry provide another layer to this puzzle. Why were such enormous stones carved but never transported? Were they part of a larger abandoned vision? Or did the ancient builders, for reasons unknown, reach the limit of their capabilities? Some researchers argue that the intent wasn't merely practical, but symbolic, a show of dominance, divine connection, or knowledge. Others entertain theories of lost technologies capable of overcoming these challenges, technologies that have since vanished without a trace. Whatever the explanation, the Trilithon stones defy expectations of what ancient civilizations should have been capable of. They stand as a testament to engineering feats that seem, at least for now, to remain beyond our full comprehension. If the Romans couldn't fully account for the Trilithon's construction, then the question becomes what other civilizations' methods or long-forgotten knowledge might have been at work. Could Baalbek's engineering feats be part of something larger, an ancient understanding shared across the world, or evidence of technologies we've forgotten? When we compare Baalbek to other astonishing sites like the pyramids of Giza, Sacsayhuaman, or Stonehenge, intriguing similarities emerge. All of these structures use colossal stones, exhibit impeccable precision, and present mysteries that have yet to be definitively solved. While separated by continents and built during vastly different time periods, these wonders pose a strikingly similar question. How did ancient builders achieve such monumental tasks without advanced tools? Sacsayhuaman in Peru, for instance, mirrors some of Baalbek's qualities in its stonework. This ancient fortress features enormous interlocking stones, some weighing over 100 tons, fit so perfectly together that not even a blade of grass can slip through the seams. Like the Trilithon at Baalbek, the precision suggests more than basic ingenuity. However, at Sacsayhuaman, the approach goes even further. Stones were irregularly shaped, but carved to interlock like pieces of a three-dimensional puzzle. No mortar was used, yet the structure has withstood earthquakes for centuries. Although smaller in scale compared to the megaliths at Baalbek, the similarities in precision raise questions about whether this represents a shared ancient technique that transcended geography. Then there's Egypt's pyramids of Giza, another marvel of ancient engineering. While more famous for their sheer height, the pyramids rely on massive blocks of limestone and granite, many weighing between 2 and 80 tons. Like Baalbek, the interior chambers and tunnels of the Great Pyramid display stunning accuracy. Some blocks were transported from quarries hundreds of kilometers away, a feat that echoes the logistical challenges seen at Baalbek. What's more, many of these stones were lifted to extreme heights, just as the Roman builders later raised vast columns when constructing their temples atop Baalbek's platform. The parallels spark debate. Were these ancient civilizations independently solving the same engineering problems, or could there have been a shared reservoir of knowledge passed across cultures? Stonehenge in England adds yet another layer to the puzzle. While smaller in scale, it demonstrates an equally perplexing mastery of transport and alignment. Its builders moved giant sarsen stones, each weighing around 25 tons, more than 30 kilometers. Supplementing them are bluestones lighter, but still weighing up to 4 tons, brought all the way from Preseli Hills in Wales, roughly 250 kilometers away. The purpose of this feat remains unknown. Much like Baalbek, was it astronomical, ceremonial, or something else entirely? Archaeologists have long debated how these stones were aligned so precisely with celestial events, yet no definitive agreement exists. What ties these sites together isn't just their size and scale, but their lasting mysteries. In all cases, conventional archaeology offers theoretical explanations, sledges, ramps, ropes, but they fall short of fully accounting for the staggering logistics involved. The possibility of cross-cultural knowledge transfer is often dismissed in favor of local ingenuity, but the repeated patterns in construction accuracy and scale make it harder to ignore. Could there have been forgotten methods, techniques that might have allowed civilizations to manipulate stone in ways that we no longer understand? Or did these ancient builders, separated by distance and time, intuit identical solutions to their architectural challenges? Some researchers push the theories further, suggesting lost technologies or even extraterrestrial involvement. While these ideas often lack concrete evidence, they rise from a need to explain the unexplainable. For sites like Baalbek, there's a sense that the knowledge used to shape it far exceeded what should have been available during its earliest phases of construction. What's left are structures that push the limits of our imagination, demanding explanations that archaeology alone doesn't always satisfy. Baalbek's trilithon remains unique in its size and complexity, but the connections to these other sites force us to reconsider what we know about ancient civilizations. Were they simply brilliant problem solvers, or did they inherit their knowledge, and if so, from whom? The gaps in scientific explanations not only keep the mysteries alive, but also invite us to question the story of human history itself. Baalbek stands as a testament to the ingenuity and ambition of ancient builders, challenging modern assumptions about what early civilizations could achieve. The trilithon stones, in particular, push the boundaries of what seems possible, leaving us to wonder if these builders possessed knowledge or techniques now lost to time. What if the story of humanity is more complex than we've always believed? Revisiting sites like Baalbek might not just fill gaps in history, but redefine how we think about our ancestors' capabilities. The mystery is far from solved, but it raises a profound question. Have we only scratched the surface of our past? In 1963, a man renovating his home in Turkey knocked down a wall, only to uncover a hidden room that led to one of the largest underground cities ever built. Stretching 18 stories deep, this ancient city is designed to shelter 20,000 people and still baffles scientists to this day. Who created this engineering marvel without modern tools? And what were they hiding from? Imagine knocking down a wall in your basement, only to find a doorway, not to another room, but to an entire underground city. That's exactly what happened in 1963 in the small town of Derinkuyu, located in Turkey's Cappadocia region. A local man, while renovating his home, accidentally uncovered something extraordinary, a hidden chamber carved into volcanic rock. At first glance, it seemed like a curiosity, perhaps an old storage space. But as he pushed further, he realized it wasn't just one room. It opened into tunnel after tunnel, leading to what would eventually be identified as one of the largest underground cities ever discovered. What truly stunned the world was the sheer scale of it. Archaeologists who investigated the site found not just a few chambers, but a sprawling labyrinth descending 18 stories into the earth. There were kitchens, storage rooms, stables, and even places of worship, all connected by a network of narrow passageways. It's a city that could house an estimated 20,000 people, along with all the supplies they would need to survive. And yet it had remained hidden for hundreds, perhaps even thousands of years, right beneath an unsuspecting modern town. Walking into Derinkuyu's depths for the first time must have been an eerie experience. Imagine being one of those first explorers, shining a flashlight down dark, winding corridors, untouched by human eyes for centuries. The air would have been cold, the silence broken only by the sound of your footsteps echoing off the stone walls. And then, as your light Cut through the darkness, you'd see signs of life frozen in time-stone basins, for water niches carved into walls as storage and ventilation shafts stretching upward like chimneys to the surface. Archaeologists soon began piecing together the city's history and construction. They determined that the underground city was crafted out of the region's soft volcanic rock tuff, a material both easy to carve and deceptively fragile under pressure. The earliest layers of the city are believed to date back to the 8th or 7th century BCE, possibly built by the Phrygians or Hittites. Over the centuries, each subsequent civilization expanded it further, drawing from its ingenious design and making it into a refuge. The biggest question, however, remained unanswered. How did something so vast stay hidden for so long? It wasn't just the physical size of Derinkuyu that defied expectation, it was the enigma of its purpose. Why would an entire society relocate underground? And more importantly, how did they accomplish such a feat with ancient tools? How do you carve an 18-story city into solid rock without the help of modern equipment? That's one of the questions that makes Derinkuyu such an engineering marvel. Cappadocia, where the city lies, has an unusual geology that must have both challenged and helped its builders. The region is filled with volcanic tuff, a soft type of rock formed from ancient eruptions. It's easy to carve with simple tools like pickaxes and shovels, but maintaining stability over such a sprawling network was an entirely different challenge. Without the right techniques, underground structures like this could collapse or worse, trap its builders in a dangerous maze. The people who crafted Derinkuyu demonstrated a deep understanding of their environment and advanced problem-solving skills. One of their most impressive achievements was the city's ventilation system. Over 50 intricately designed shafts penetrate through the 18 levels of the city, bringing fresh air to even the lowest floors. Some of these shafts extend upwards of 55 meters to the surface. The air circulation was so effective that even underground it would have been possible to breathe comfortably and carry out daily activities. These shafts also doubled as wells, bringing fresh water directly into the city. The name Derinkuyu itself means deep well, a nod to these essential features. But it wasn't just about fresh air and water. The city's design shows a level of defensive thinking far beyond what might be expected for its time. Narrow tunnels connected the various levels, making it nearly impossible for intruders to move through in large numbers. Strategically placed rolling stone doors, each weighing up to half a ton, could seal off individual levels or block tunnels. These massive doors were carved directly from the ground and fitted so precisely that they could be rolled into place by a single person. Once closed, the city became nearly impenetrable, making it a safe refuge during times of invasion. Then there's the layout itself. Every level was structured into zones. There were stables for animals, residential quarters, storage rooms for food, and even chapels and schools. Some chambers reveal spaces designed for communal living, with areas to cook and store supplies. This wasn't just a temporary hideout, it was a sanctuary capable of sustaining a thriving population through long-term threats. The precision of a city like Derinkuyu raises a haunting question. What kind of threat could drive its builders to create such a complex, self-sufficient refuge underground? What kind of danger would force thousands of people to abandon life on the surface and build a city deep underground? The story of Derinkuyu suggests that the answer lies in the persistent threats faced by the region's ancient inhabitants. Historical records paint a grim picture of invasions, persecution, and violence that likely drove communities to seek safety beneath the earth. One of the most active periods of Derinkuyu's use was during the Arab-Byzantine Wars, spanning from the late 8th to the 12th century. This prolonged conflict brought waves of Arab-Muslim incursions into Byzantine territories, often targeting Christian communities. Derinkuyu, with its massive stone doors and labyrinth of tunnels, became a vital sanctuary for the region's Byzantine population. Its design was ideal for surviving sieges. Narrow passageways created choke points, preventing large groups of soldiers from advancing, while the stone doors could seal off entire levels of the city. These defensive strategies allowed people to remain hidden for extended periods, safe from attackers who lacked the knowledge or tools to breach the city. Later in the 14th century, the Mongol invasions under Timur or Tamerlane swept across Anatolia, bringing destruction and displacement. It's believed that local populations once again turned to Derinkuyu during these raids. The city's ability to protect not only people, but also their livestock and supplies was crucial during what was likely an unpredictable and terrifying time. Its structure supported long-term survival underground, with wells providing fresh water and designated areas for food storage and even wine production. Even after the Mongol threat subsided, Derinkuyu continued to serve as a refuge for vulnerable groups. Following the rise of Ottoman-ruled Christians in the area, Cappadocian Greeks and Armenians retreated to the underground city to escape persecution. This use of the city as a safe haven lasted well into the early 20th century, a striking testament to its reliability over centuries of conflict. The scale of Derinkuyu, however, suggests its purpose went beyond simply hiding from invaders. Its amenities, schoolrooms, chapels, stables, and kitchens point to long-term habitation, not just temporary shelter. Some researchers even speculate that natural disasters such as drought or harsh winters or some forgotten ancient threat may have driven its original builders into the ground. The city's ability to maintain stable temperatures and preserve resources hints that its purpose may have been as much environmental as it was defensive. Whatever the reason, the level of preparation remains extraordinary. This raises an intriguing question. Was Derinkuyu a one-of-a-kind refuge or part of something much larger? What if Derinkuyu wasn't alone? Beneath the surface of Cappadocia, hundreds of underground cities have been identified, over 200, in fact with more than 40 reaching depths of at least 3 levels. Derinkuyu is the largest and most complex among them, but it's far from isolated. Incredibly, it's connected to Kaymakli, another extensive underground city, through a tunnel stretching an estimated 8 to 9 kilometers. This isn't just evidence of advanced engineering, it's an indication of a broader system suggesting these cities were strategically designed to function as part of a larger subterranean network. With tunnels allowing movement between them, it's easy to imagine the communities cooperating to ensure their survival. The existence of such systems raises big questions about how ancient societies viewed the world both above and beneath their feet. And Cappadocia isn't the only place where people engineered life underground. In northern France, the underground city of Naours features over 300 rooms and spans nearly 3 kilometers of tunnels. Unlike Derinkuyu, Naours was more temporary in its purpose. It served as a hiding spot during wars from medieval conflicts, to use as a refuge in both world wars. Meanwhile, in China, the ancient city of Dixiacheng in Beijing served as a Cold War-era shelter, but reflects a similar instinct to protect communities underground. Each site reveals something unique about its builders, yet they all share one central goal: survival in the face of adversity. The complexity of Derinkuyu, however, sets it apart. It wasn't merely a last-minute escape structure. Its vast chambers and thoughtful zoning suggest long-term habitation was part of the plan. Derinkuyu's stables, wells, and chapels hint at a vision of continuity, an underground world where daily life could continue uninterrupted. The effort to excavate not just one functional level, but 18 interconnected tiers of living spaces far exceeds what's seen in places like Naos, where residents clearly expected to emerge back above ground relatively quickly. This distinction implies that threats to Derinkuyu's builders may have been uniquely intense or sustained over time. The sheer number of underground cities in Cappadocia, combined with locations like Naos or Petra, hints at something even larger. These efforts weren't isolated events. They reflect a recurring pattern across civilizations where building beneath the earth became a widely adopted solution to an overwhelming threat. Was it war, environmental crisis, something forgotten in history? Whatever the reason, it speaks to a universal truth about humanity, an extraordinary ingenuity when faced with the unknown. Derinkuyu is more than an underground city. It's a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. Its design wasn't just functional, it reflected a deeper mastery of engineering, resourcefulness, and survival. The ability to sustain tens of thousands underground shows how ancient builders adapted to existential threats in ways we still can't fully explain. But what's perhaps most intriguing is what we don't know. With new tunnels and chambers being discovered, what other secrets could lie buried beneath Cappadocia? As Derinkuyu's mysteries slowly unfold, we're left wondering how much of our ancient past remains hidden, waiting for someone to knock down a wall.